May I invite you to take your seats? Is he here? I don't see.
Yes, I see him. He's here. Madam Chair, he's
Okay.
here.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. May I invite you to take your seats? Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great sorrow that we have learned during the night that nearly 80 persons lost their lives at a terrorist attack perpetrated in Nice, France. We strongly condemn this heinous act that took place during the celebrations of 14th July, which symbolizes fraternity, unity, and solidarity, and most importantly, human rights and democracy. At a time when the international community is passing through difficult times, we must show solidarity against evil forces of terrorism. On behalf of World Heritage Committee, I strongly condemn this barbaric attack, and we convey our deepest condolences to the bereaved families and to French nation. I now invite you all to a minute of silence in the memory of those who lost their lives in Nice. Thank you very much. Representative of France, Ambassador, you have the floor.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Merci à l'ensemble de l'Assemblée, à l'ensemble du Comité du patrimoine mondial pour sa solidarité après ce terrible acte barbare qui a été commis la nuit dernière, alors que la population de Nice fêtait le 14 juillet. Et il est clair que la solidarité des nations est un réconfort dans ce moment de grande tristesse pour le peuple français. Donc merci à vous pour les mots que vous avez eus et pour la solidarité du Comité du patrimoine mondial dans ces circonstances.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. Dear delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to inform you of a slight change in the timetable of the morning session. Indeed, it is proposed to examine item 8A on Monday morning. Therefore, we will proceed this morning with the examination of item 8B, which concerns the nominations on the World Heritage List. It is now time to consider the nominations of properties of the World Heritage List. I would like to recall that the relevant working documents concerning nominations are 8B and 8B addendum. The advisory body's evaluations can be found in the information documents. ICOMOS in INF 8B1, INF 8B1 corrigendum, and INF 8B1 addendum. And for IUCN, INF 8B2, INF 8B2 corrigendum, and INF 8B2 addendum. Let me recall that document INF 8B3 presents the list of all nominations received by 1st February 2016 with the indication of those which were deemed complete. These nominations will not be discussed during our debates here, as they are foreseen to be examined at our next committee session in 2017. Document INF 8B4 presents factual errors identified by state parties in the advisory body evaluations, and it was distributed to you on Monday, the first day of the committee session. I now invite the Secretariat to present this document and read out the list of nominations for which factual errors notifications have been received and to add some explanations. Mr. Balsamo, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. In accordance with paragraph 150 and Annex 12 of the operational guidelines, the notification of factual errors as submitted by the concerned state parties and reviewed by the relevant advisory bodies are presented in the language in which they have been submitted. It is important to recall that Annex 12 of the operational guidelines is the official format of the submission of factual errors identified in the advisory body's evaluation. However, this format and procedure do not prevent the submission of additional information that could not be properly verified and evaluated. And the comments made by the advisory bodies in the right column indicate whether the information submitted is a factual error or not. This year, we received factual errors notification concerning the following nomination to be examined: Canada, mistaken point; China, Hubei Shenanjia; France, tectono-volcanic ensemble of the Chain de Puy and Limagne Fault; Islamic Republic of Iran, Lot Desert; Mexico, archipelago of Revillagigedo; Sudan, Sanganeb Marine National Park and Dunganab Bay Mukawar Island Marine National Park; Thailand, Kankrachang Forest Complex; Turkmenistan, mountain ecosystem of Khoitan Tag; Canada, Pimakchoeng Ake; Chad, Anedi Massif Natural and Cultural Landscape; India, Kankrachang Jomcha National Park; Iraq, the Hawars of southern Iraq, refuge of biodiversity and related landscape of the Mesopotamian cities; Argentina, Belgium, France, Germany, India, Japan, and Switzerland, the architectural work of Le Corbusier, an outstanding contribution to the modern movement; Bosnia and Herzegovina, Croatia, Montenegro, and Serbia, Stećci medieval tombstones; China, Zuojiang Huashan rock art cultural landscape; Greece, archaeological site of Philippi; India, excavated remains of Nalanda Mahivara; Islamic Republic of Iran, the Persian qanat; Federate States of Micronesia, Nan Madol ceremonial center of Eastern Micronesia; Turkey, archaeological site of Ani; United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, Gibraltar, Neanderthal caves and environments; United States of America, keywords of modern architecture by Frank Lloyd Wright, as well as for the minor boundary modifications submitted by Japan for the sacred sites and pilgrimage routes in the key mountains range. Before the presentation of the concerned nomination by the advisory bodies, the Secretariat will announce the related factual error notification received, and if the notification of factual errors has an impact on the proposed statement of OUV, the amendment is already included on the text that will be shown on the screen. Only notification received by the statutory deadline and submitted in the appropriate form of Annex 12 of the operational guidelines have been made available in document information 8B4. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Balsamo. Are there any objections, comments? I see none. Let's now move to the first draft decisions of document 8B concerning proposed changes to names of properties already inscribed on the World Heritage List. I invite Mr. Balsamo to present this item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For this session of the committee, we received 6 requests for change to the name of the properties already inscribed on the World Heritage List. If there are no objections, in order to save time, I will present them all together, and the committee will deal with the adoption of the related draft decision at the end of this brief presentation. The first request comes from France and deals with the property of climate terroir of Burgundy, inscribed on the World Heritage List in 2015. And the committee is asked to approve the proposed name change, which becomes the climate terroir of Burgundy in English and le climat du vignoble de Bourgogne in French. The second request comes also from France and deals with the property of Champagne hillsides, houses and cellars inscribed on the World Heritage List in 2015. And the committee is asked to approve the proposed name change in French, which becomes Coteaux, Maisons et Caves de Champagne. The third request comes from Peru and deals with the property of lines and geoglyphs of Nazca and Pampas de Humana, inscribed on the World Heritage List in 1998. The committee is asked to approve the proposed name change, which becomes lines and geoglyphs of Nazca and Palpa in English, and lignes et géoglyphes of Nazca et Palpa in French. The fourth request comes from Philippines and deals with the property historic town of Vigan, inscribed on the World Heritage List in 1999. The committee is asked to approve the proposed name change in English, which becomes Historic City of Vigan. The fifth request comes from Portugal and deals with the property of Historic Center of Oporto, inscribed on the World Heritage List in 1996. And I call your attention to the related draft decision 40com 8B5, which should be corrected as shown, will be shown on the screens, not right now, because it was a do which was missing. So the committee is asked to approve the proposed name change, which becomes Historic Center of Oporto, Louis I Bridge and Monastery of Serra do Pilar in English, and Centre Historique de Porto, Pont Louis Ier et Monastère de Serra do Pilar in French. The sixth and last request and the related draft decision 40com 8B49 are to be found in document 8B-add. And this request comes from Singapore and deal with the property Singapore Botanical Gardens, inscribed on the World Heritage List in 2015. The committee is asked to approve a change to the English name of the property, which becomes Singapore Botanic Gardens. The related draft decision 40com 8B1, 8B2, 8B3, 8B4, 8B5 are on page 1 of both English and French version of document 8B, while draft decision 40com 8B49 is on page 1 of both the English-French version of document 8B-add. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Balsamo. Are there any objections to this name change request? I see none. I declare draft decisions 40com 8B1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 49 adopted. Our next point on the agenda, item 8B, deals with withdrawals of nominations to be examined by this session of the committee. I invite Mr. Bazama to read out the list of the nominations withdrawn at the request of the concerned state parties.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A total of 9 nominations were withdrawn. 7 of these were withdrawn prior to the publication of document 8B, while 2 nominations were withdrawn prior to this committee session and after the publication of document 8B. The 9 withdrawn nominations are Croatia, Roman urbanism of the Zadar Peninsula with the monumental complex on the Forum, Czech Republic and Germany mining cultural landscape Erzgebirge Krasnohory, Germany, Frank Foundation Hall, Japan, churches and Christian sites in Nagasaki, Montenegro, Historic Center of Cetinje, Republic of Korea, Siwon Neo-Confucian Academies of the Joseon Dynasty, Russian Federation, Western Caucasus, Russian Federation, Virgin Coming Forest, and Thailand Phutrabat Historical Park. Following this withdrawal, the committee will have to examine 27 nominations, and among them 9 are for natural sites, 4 for mixed sites, and 14 for cultural sites. And let me take this opportunity to remind also that the complete PDF version of all nominations which are examined at this session have been made available to all state parties with a notification that we sent on 3rd May last on a secure web page of our website. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bazamo. Are there any comments? I see none. Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin with the examination of nominations, I would like to take this opportunity to recall 2 essential procedures concerning nominations to be examined. Firstly, as you may recall, the committee is requested to examine the recommendations and draft decisions presented in the relevant documents and in accordance with paragraph 153 of the operational guidelines, take its decisions in the following 4 categories. The committee may decide to inscribe a property on the World Heritage List, paragraph 154 of the operational guidelines. The committee may decide that a property should not be inscribed on the World Heritage List, paragraph 158 of the operational guidelines. The committee may decide to refer back a nomination to the state party for additional information, paragraph 159 of the operational guidelines. The committee may decide to defer a nomination for more in-depth assessment or study or a substantial revision by the state party, paragraph 160 of the operational guidelines. In particular, nominations which the committee decides to refer back to the state party for additional information may be resubmitted to the following committee session for examination. For a referred nomination, there is no new nomination file to be prepared, and there is no evaluation mission of the relevant advisory body foreseen to the property. If the committee decides to refer any nomination, it means that an in-depth assessment or study or a substantial revision of the nomination file by the state party is needed. Therefore, a new nomination should be submitted, and the site will have the opportunity of being re-evaluated by the relevant advisory body during the full year and the half evaluation cycle according to the procedures and timetable outlined in paragraph 168 of the operational guidelines. Secondly, on the specific issue of submission of additional information on nominations, I would like to recall point H of paragraph 148, as well as the nomination timetable of paragraph 168 of the operational guidelines, which establishes that the evaluations and presentations of the advisory bodies should not take into account or include any information submitted by the state party after 28 February in the year in which the nomination is considered. We can now proceed with the examination of nominations. This year, we will begin with cultural nominations, followed by mixed and then natural nominations. The order of the examination of nominations is listed on page 5 of both the English and French version of document 8B, and I would kindly ask you to follow this order to the extent possible. For ease of reference, the page numbers of the advisory body evaluations documents are also shown in the PowerPoint presentations. I'm going to call on ICOMOS and IUCN to be concise in their presentations, as you will be allocated 5 to 10 minutes to present each nomination, depending on its category. Thank you in advance for your cooperation. We will now start with the first nomination. I now invite ICOMOS to present the nomination of Zuojiang Huashan Rock Art Cultural Landscape, China. But before I give the floor to the Secretariat, Mr. Balsamo, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to announce that we received a factual error letter concerning this nomination, which is to be found on page 74 of the English version of document INF 8B4 and on page 75 of the French version. And this notification has no impact on the proposed statement of OUE. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative of ICOMOS, you have the floor.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Donc, le paysage culturel de l'art rupestre de Zuojiang Huashan, République populaire de Chine. L'évaluation en français se trouve à la page 124 du document INF 8B1 et la version en anglais à la page 76. Le bien proposé pour inscription est composé de 38 sites répartis dans 3 éléments en série. 2 sont situés le long de la rivière Zuojiang et 1 le long de son affluent, la rivière Mingjiang. Chacun est entouré de sa propre zone tampon. Il s'agit d'un paysage culturel. Les sites ornés de style Huashan sont situés dans la partie septentrionale de la région tropicale de la Chine, dans une zone caractérisée par une topographie karstique sur le plateau Yunnan-Guizhou, qui se forma il y a environ 200 millions d'années. Totalisant 109 panneaux et comprenant 4050 images, les sites illustrent 4 phases stylistiques de peinture, la première étant surtout représentée dans l'élément 3 et la dernière plutôt dans l'élément 1. Datant d'une époque s'étendant environ du 5e siècle avant notre ère jusqu'au 2e siècle de notre ère, ces œuvres sont dues au peuple Liuwe et illustrent leur vie et leurs rituels. La localisation des pictogrammes est originale, car ils sont dessinés très haut sur des falaises abruptes aux couleurs claires qui tranchent dans le paysage montagneux plus sombre. Ils ne sont commodément accessibles que par la rivière, ce qui représente un avantage majeur en matière de conservation. En face de ces falaises se dressent des plateaux luxuriants sur lesquels le peuple Liuwe vécut dans de petits établissements. Les figures, situées entre 15 et 130 mètres au-dessus de l'eau, ont été peintes grâce à l'utilisation d'échafaudages ou dans certains cas par le moyen de plateformes suspendues au sommet des falaises. Cette recherche de hauteur périlleuse est un choix culturel particulier dans l'art rupestre mondial et constitue une grande originalité de cet art. Cette pratique esthétique fut maintenue pendant plusieurs siècles et impliqua une organisation sociétale, des moyens techniques et des motivations spirituelles communes. Les éléments culturels et naturels sont intégrés les uns aux autres et prennent leur sens au travers de leurs relations topographiques, visuelles et spirituelles. Les pictogrammes furent réalisés au moyen de pigments d'hématite mélangés à de la sève de plante en guise d'adhésif. Les figures sont assez schématiques, de dimensions variables, dessinées en nombre et bien visibles. Elles comprennent une grande majorité de figures humaines, vues soit de face, soit de profil, avec les jambes pliées et les bras levés, illustrant une danse rituelle. Des armes associées ont été interprétées comme indiquant le statut plus élevé de certains individus. Les animaux comprennent des mammifères, souvent indéterminés, et des oiseaux. Ils se trouvent souvent en relation avec les humains. Des représentations de cloches en forme de cornes de mouton et de tambours en bronze montrent la célébration de cérémonies rituelles. Les images sont documentées par des archives historiques et ont été datées par diverses méthodes de datation. Les sites ornés de style Huashan sont remarquables en tant que représentation de la vie à l'époque des royaumes combattants en Chine et apportent un témoignage exceptionnel sur les cérémonies et rituels associés à la culture des tambours en bronze auxquels se livrait le peuple Liuwei. Les peintures sont toujours sacrées pour les populations locales et certaines cérémonies sont célébrées dans des villages afin d'apaiser les forces invisibles influant sur leur vie. Les tambours en bronze sont respectés comme symbole de puissance dans la Chine méridionale. En termes d'intégrité, les éléments du bien ont été choisis parmi 80 sites d'art rupestre recensés en tant que pictogrammes les mieux conservés et représentant toutes les phases de leur évolution. L'art rupestre est authentique en termes de matériaux et de substances, ainsi que d'emplacement et d'environnement. Les pictogrammes n'ont souffert d'aucune intervention humaine depuis leur découverte. L'analyse comparative a démontré l'importance et le caractère unique du bien proposé pour inscription. Les critères 3 et 6 ont été justifiés et la valeur universelle exceptionnelle a été démontrée. Le critère 1 n'a pas été retenu par l'ICOMOS, le caractère exceptionnel des images en termes visuels et esthétiques ou de techniques utilisées n'ayant pas été démontré. Les délimitations des éléments de la série suivent les caractéristiques géographiques du bien et sont appropriées. Le bien bénéficie de mécanismes de protection au niveau national, provincial et local qui protègent les sites d'art rupestre, les aires panoramiques, les cours d'eau et les terres agricoles. Une réglementation volontaire émanant des villages est également en place. Les mesures de protection des zones tampons sont appropriées. L'état de conservation des éléments de la série est satisfaisant. Il est recommandé de préparer un programme de conservation pour tous les sites d'art rupestre en utilisant le programme de conservation pilote du site de Ningming Huashan comme modèle. La gestion générale du bien est satisfaisante. Le plan directeur pour la conservation et la gestion du paysage culturel a été approuvé en janvier 2015. En conclusion, l'ICOMOS recommande que le paysage culturel de l'art rupestre de Zuojiang Huashan soit inscrit sur la liste du patrimoine mondial sur la base des critères 3 et 6. Des recommandations associées à la protection, la conservation et la gestion du bien ont également été formulées. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, ICOMOS, for your presentation. I now invite the committee members to express their comments. I see no representative of Jamaica.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jamaica wishes to extend sincerest congratulations to the State Party of China for what is an outstanding example of a cultural landscape that captures the legacy, spirituality, creativity, and sacred practices of the people whose history it represents. This is indeed a significant property that has been added for future generations to understand and appreciate the diverse cultural experiences that underpins humanity. We thank the State Party for having put in place legislations to protect the 38 rock art sites and wish to urge China to complete the plan underway to put all the sites under the highest protection level. Jamaica fully supports the recommendation for inscription to the World Heritage List. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative of Indonesia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Indonesia would like to recognize the evaluation of the ICOMOS on this nomination. We agree with the recommendation to inscribe Zuojiang Huashan rock art cultural landscape to the World Heritage List. we would like also to congratulate the State Party for the excellent works. I thank you.
Thank you. Representative of Republic of Korea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Republic of Korea also would like to extend its heartfelt congratulations to the State Party of China for the successful inscription of Zuojiang Huashan rock art cultural landscape. From the excellent state of conservation to the extensive array of 38 components depicting diverse cultural elements, Republic of Korea believes that it is a great example of the cultural landscape. We are very happy and glad to see beautiful rock art harmonized with the landscape to be inscribed as a World Heritage. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Representative of Turkey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Turkey would like to congratulate the State Party of China for nominating this outstanding historic cultural landscape with 38 rock art sites that were created by the activities of a specific historic population related with nature in such a way as to symbolically document also a cultural tradition of bronze drums, which has modern relevance in symbolizing power. This nomination can be considered in conjunction with thematic program heads, which has unfortunately been phasing out, that aim to fill in a specific gap in the World Heritage List. It is thoroughly integration into a natural forest landscape renders the exceptional artistic manifestations that form the main attributes of the property rather open to natural threats and risks. Therefore, we support the advisory body's proposal to enhance the management system and plan for the property with a risk preparedness strategy and risk management plans. The conservation program should also be extended to cover all nominated rock art sites and carried out together with monitoring programs. We have full confidence in the State Party's success in fulfilling all these recommendations. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Representative of Portugal.
Thank you very much, Madam President, and a very good day to you. We wish to commend and congratulate China for this serial nomination, which we understand enjoys widespread support from the local communities. We encourage the State Party to pursue an inclusive approach when implementing the additional recommendations of the draft decision we will be adopting. As two components compose this serial nomination, and although both share common values and are functionally connected despite being physically separated from each other, we particularly support the recommendation for more connectivity between the two components and their respective core habitats, as this will facilitate wildlife movements. Having said this, we are confident that China will fully address all the recommendations, which are also meant to ensure comprehensive and sustainable management of the property, and we therefore fully support this decision. I thank you.
Mr. Ambassador, thank you very much. Representative of Vietnam.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairpersons. Vietnam congratulates the nominations of the Zuojiang Huashan rock art cultural landscape to be inscribed on the World Heritage List. The property, with a special combination of landscape and rock art, vividly conveys the vigorous spiritual and social life of the Luoyao people who live along the Zuojiang River from the 5th century BCE to the 2nd century CE. In the comparative analysis with Sapa, the area of old carved stone in Sapa on Vietnam tentative list 1997, it is indicated that no mention is made of depictions of bronze drums, although that it is in the area of the Dong Sơn bronze drum culture. Taking this opportunity, we would like to provide more information, which is mentioned in many published documents, to state that Dong Sơn is the ancient and well-developed culture in many areas of Vietnam. In Vietnam, our scientists discover many relics, archaeological findings, related to tombstone culture and tombstone drums in many provinces and cities, Lào Cai, Yên Bái, Phú Thọ, Hà Nội, Thanh Hóa, and Nghệ An. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, representative of Tanzania.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The United Republic of Tanzania wishes to convey our heartfelt congratulations to the State Party of China in nominating this site to be inscribed on the World Heritage List. The addition of the site on the list will ensure that the coming generations find another of our planet's beautiful cultural sites preserved for them to appreciate and enjoy. We therefore join other committee members in supporting the inscription of this site. I thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Ambassador. Representative of Kuwait. Representative of Kuwait, you have the floor.
شكرا سيدتي الرئيس. نود بدورنا أن نعرب عن تهنئتنا لدولة الطرف بتسجيل هذا الموقع المميز لما يحمله من نقوش تدل على حياة اجتماعية وروحانية وفلسفة مميزة تضيف إلى قائمة التراث العالمي. وكما نؤيد توصيات المقدمة من الهيئة الاستشارية، ونحن على ثقة بأن حكومة الصين سوف تأخذ بها التوصيات حفاظاً على هذا الموقع المميز. وشكراً.
Thank you. Representative of Cuba.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Para nosotros realmente es de satisfacción poder haber valorado la presencia de una nominación sobre un paisaje cultural con tan ricas tradiciones asociadas. Felicitamos al Estado parte por esa nominación tan importante y queremos también reconocer la claridad y la profundidad de la evaluación hecha por el órgano consultivo. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. Representative of Poland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Poland supports the inscription of the Zuojiang Huashan rock art cultural landscape on the World Heritage List and would like to congratulate China for this nomination. The site is an exceptional example of rock art that depicts ceremonies and traditional style of life of the Luaye people. The great commitment of the local community, the protection and conservation of this site is an undeniable example of care and understanding of their heritage and must be here clearly stated and appreciated. We would like to ask for a small amendment to the decision. As the draft one has a series of recommendations, we would like to add, like in last years, a standard paragraph requesting the state party to submit a report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see no more requests for the floor. May I ask our rapporteur to present the draft decision and the proposed amendment?
Do you have the standard language? No? Thank you, Madam Chair. For the Zuojiang Huashan Rock Art Cultural Landscape China, the only amendment that I have just received from the distinguished delegate of Poland is to include in a paragraph which would ask for the state party to submit a report. We don't have it actually integrated on the screen yet because she just mentioned it in her intervention. Would you like for us to include it at the last of the paragraph, in the very last part? Thank you.
May I ask representative of Poland, when do you want this report? What will be the timing of the report?
Thank you, Madam. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Madam Chair. It's a standard one in 2 years' time. So like we did last year, every time when we recommend the state party to do anything, we ask for a report in a certain time, which means 2 years.
Thank you very much.
Then
We would like to request the state party to submit to the World Heritage Center by 1st December.
In 2 years, 2018?
It will be 17, and then we have a report, if I may, in
2018, okay.
18.
By request the state party to submit to the World Heritage Center by 1st December 2017 a report on the implementation of the above-mentioned recommendations for examination by the World Heritage Committee at its 42nd session in 2018. Does this read okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that's all we have. May I ask the members of the committee if they have any comment on the draft decision as amended? I see none. I now declare draft decision 40Com 8B19 adopted as amended. Let me congratulate China on behalf of the entire committee for the inscription of this property. China, if you would like. This is the exciting part. May I give the floor to the representative of China for a
Thank you, Madam
brief
Chair.
statement for
Now,
two
please allow
minutes.
Mr. Liu Shuguang, Deputy Director General of State Office of Cultural Heritage of China, to take the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the World Heritage Committee, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm so glad to witness the inscription of Zuojiang Huashan rock art cultural landscape on the World Heritage List, the very first of this session. It's our great honor, and it's a glorious time in our life. This is the 49th World Heritage Site in China, but it's also an important one for it's a new type in China. It's the first rock art site in China, and it's also the first one in China, Guangxi. The inscription reflects China's efforts and commitment to contribute to a more representative, balanced, and credited World Heritage List. And it's also a great reward to the local people, Guangxi, and the Ningming people who have long cherished and protected the site very well. Thank you, Guangxi. Thank you, Ningming. I know you have done so much wonderful work, and I couldn't give you enough thanks and congratulations. I would also like to thank the World Heritage Committee, ICMOS, and ICRUM for concrete recommendations regarding to the follow-up, protection, and management of site. The Chinese government and the local authority will work hard accordingly on the various aspects, including the forest fire prevention, the environment protection in both Huashan and other rock art areas. Surely, we will work in line with the World Heritage Convention and its operational guidelines for the effective conservation and sustainable development of the new World Heritage. Last but important, I would like to thank the government of Turkey for your perfect organization of this event. I would like to express my admiration and gratitude to you for your courage and determination in hosting this event at a time of intense terrorist threats and in safeguarding our shared value. As we know, last night in Nice, there was a frank attack. We condemn the terrorists and give our condolences to the victims. I'm wishing you a peaceful time, wishing you good luck in Istanbul, good luck in Turkey. And we are here to support you to fighting against the terrorism, a common enemy of the humanity. Finally, I invite you, everybody here, to come to China to visit Huashan, the new heritage. I'm sure it will be a wonderful and uncomfortable time. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you all.
I thank the representative of China, and also I thank him for his very warm words of solidarity.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I now invite ICOMOS to present the nomination of the excavated remains of Nalanda Mahavihara, India. But before I give the floor to the Secretariat, Mr. Balsamo, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We received a factual error letter concerning this nomination, which is to be found on page 79 of document INF 8B4 and on page 83 of the French version of this document. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you very much. Representative of ICOMOS, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I'm presenting the ICOMOS evaluation of the excavated remains of Nalanda Mahavihara. The excavated remains of Nalanda Mahavihara consist of the archaeological remains of a monastic scholastic institution dating from the 3rd century BC to the 13th century AD. It is associated with the revival of Buddhism and its flourishing in medieval times. The site is located 88 kilometers southwest of Patna, the capital of the Bihar province. The property covers a total area of 23 hectares and is surrounded by a buffer zone of approximately 58 hectares, primarily covering agricultural lands and water bodies. The nominated property consists of the principal relic stupa encased in a shatya, 4 shatyas, 11 residential scholastic viharas, and a large number of votive stupas and shrines. The buildings of the site are organized in 2 systems. The earlier is a clustered stupa-centric one, which means that the viharas are organized around a sacred core, which is the focal stupa. While the latter system of site organization is linear, with viharas organized on the north-south axis. This arrangement accommodated expansion which was necessary with the transformation of teachings into a more formal context and the segregation of sacred activities from secular ones. Stupas are associated with the sacred life of Nalanda scholars. However, Nalanda has only one relic stupa to consecrate the bodily remains of Sariputta, but several votive stupas. The site became abandoned from the 14th century onwards and reduced to mounds of rubble with the passing of time. However, following its re-excavation and conservation, it today features as a reference of Buddhist scholarship and architecture. It developed a distinctive school of art expressed in workmanship, stucco, stone, and metal. The ICOMOS World Heritage Panel agreed that at this stage, the comparative analysis presented did not adequately support the outstanding universal value proposed. At present, the requirements of authenticity and integrity have not been met, and none of the criteria was demonstrated, although there might be potential to meet criteria in a future nomination. As summarized in the graphic, ICOMOS considers that the conservation methods of the property are inadequate. Management and protection measures are sufficient, but should be strengthened. And at present, ICOMOS considers that the property's boundaries are not well defined. In relation to conservation, ICOMOS is concerned about the conservation of brick structures undertaken on an annual basis, and the extent of reconstruction which is not adequately documented. ICOMOS recommends a system of marking and dating of replaced bricks, which needs to be applied systematically. This leads to the recommendation that the nomination of excavated remains of Nalanda Mahavihara should be deferred in order to allow the state party to deepen research on the attributes and extension of the property, to demonstrate its authenticity and integrity, and revise the approach to the conservation of brick structures. Furthermore, ICOMOS recommends conducting a heritage impact assessment to identify and mitigate all factors influencing the definition of the buffer zone, in particular in relation to present and potential development pressures. To develop a methodology and implementation plan for documentation of conservation to guarantee the property's future authenticity and integrity, as well as considering a name change for the resubmission of the nomination. ICOMOS further notes that any revised nomination would need to be considered by an expert mission to the site. Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you very much, ICOMOS, for your presentation. Now the floor is open for the comments of the members of the committee. Representative of Vietnam, you have the floor.
Madam Chair, thank you very much. Let me begin by quoting the words of the Finnish ambassador present here when he was asked in Istanbul what he wished was. He said that he wished that the committee would listen to and follow expert recommendation. Madam Chair, it is also my wish, but only if the expert can convince my delegation. Concerning this nomination, my delegation would like to address the following 4 concerns of ICOMOS. Firstly, concerning the boundaries. The nominated property covers an area about 23 hectares, well defined by its buffer zone of 55 hectares in all directions, containing within its 11 viharas, 14 temples, and a number of votive structures, having sufficient attributes to acquire OUV. In the future, India, the state party, do not mind, I believe, extending the property when condition permits to see how the whole Nalanda, supposed to have 84 viharas, look like as ICOMOS requested, but for the time being, boundary is there. Secondly, in terms of integrity, as soon as we are able to address the question of boundary, integrity is reassured. Thirdly, about authenticity. All the excavated structures retaining at the original location where they were excavated. The replacement of some incomplete section by some new bricks or some construction element of simpler design, as pointed out by ICOMOS, cannot change the fact that all remains are there and always authentic. For the comparative analysis, ICOMOS said that specificity of the Nalanda could be strengthened by comparison with other Mahaviharas. It is true. The acceptance of Panchayatan Chaitanya as a standard Buddhist temple architecture happened here. and then replicated by Bohida Yaida and successfully in Mahabodhi in Bagan, Myanmar, Vachatyot in Chiang Mai, Thailand, Mahabodhi in Patan, Nepal, and in Bian Pagoda, Beijing, China. The vihara formed here were enlarged in scale, retaining the architectural element into the quadrangular Viharapura, a strong contribution to the development of Buddhism architecture. Finally, OUV. The property includes stupa, chaitya, shrines, viharas, and important artworks in stucco, stones, and metal, and the layout of the building. The change in the way it represents architecture-wise, from clusters grouping around a stupa chaitya to a line alignment flanking an axis from south to north, illustrates a significant change in the development of Buddhism into a religion, and from the 3rd century to the 13th century, flourishing of the monastic tradition in the Middle Time. Madam Chair, criteria for test has been justified because it marks a stage in the development of human history, which is the development of Buddhism architecture. My delegation admits that there are some drawbacks in the way the nomination presented. The expert of the state party tried to put argument to the criteria 3, which is this nomination is very strong in criteria 4, namely Buddhism architecture. I thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Representative of Indonesia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Indonesia has examined the whole dossier and compliment the State Party India for putting forth the nomination dossier of the outstanding site of Nalanda Mahavihara, or the other word Nalanda University. The State Party has mentioned that Nalanda Mahavihara University was an exemplary monastic cum scholastic establishment, much like a modern-day university. The property is the earliest, the largest, and the longest serving in the Indian subcontinent, as well as South and Southeast Asia. In the 8th and 9th century, many Indonesian scholars had studied there at the Nalanda University. Nalanda has university-like attributes in terms of its formal layout and organization, with inherent ability to expand seamlessly to accommodate growing studentship. Functional hierarchy of the overall layout, as well as within each vihara, elements such as courtyard, a central platform, flanking cells for monks to live and study, a functional library clearly informed that Nalanda Mahavihara had most of the attributes of a modern-day functional university. In our opinion, the State Party has given enough clarification in the support of additional information asked by ICOMOS, which demonstrates the outstanding universal value of the proposed property. We therefore support the amendment of the name of the property to the archaeological site of Nalanda Mahavihara, or Nalanda University. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Representative of Finland, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In Finland's view, the State Party of India has made a significant achievement on the nomination file. To us, it is quite clear that the property has potential to demonstrate outstanding universal value. In connection with the comparative analysis, ICOMOS requested clarification on the rationale of the definition of Nalanda as a university. The answer provided by the State Party did not quite satisfy ICOMOS. From a scientific point of view, this discussion could be very interesting and even contribute to science if elaborated. At this stage, Finland, however, tends to agree with the Indian expertise in their justification for the comparative analysis. We have a bit of difficulty to understand how the integrity is affected by the fact that information about the original extent of the site is lacking. According to ICOMOS, this lack of information also affects the boundaries and the buffer zone of the site. As far as we understand, the nominated property is an archaeological site. This is also reflected by the change of the property's name suggested by ICOMOS. From our point of view, it is part of the nature of an archaeological site that its full extent is not known. We would therefore like to ask ICOMOS if they could help us better understand why, in this particular case, we would need to know the full extent of the site beforehand. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative of Kuwait.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kuwait delegation would like to compliment the State Party of India for putting forward this nomination of Nalanda Mahavihara, the university of all universities. The excavated remains are a testimony on formal education in Nalanda that predates the earliest universities in Europe for almost 800 years. Having examined the dossier, we support what the comparison proposes, as the State Party offered an insight into the autonomous center of higher learning with a distinct system of administration and education discourse based on debate and critical thinking. We find that the OUV of Nalanda is evident in its being the earliest fully functional monastic scholastic center that remained to be not only an educational center but also spiritual, attracting scholars to go back to the property and serve as spiritual leaders. We strongly support the amendment proposed by Vietnam and Indonesia, supporting the inscription of the excavated remains.
Thank you. Representative of Philippines.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The property excavated remains of Nalanda Mahavihara being proposed by India is of great historical significance. As one of the earliest examples of a fully functioning center of learning and religious thinking for centuries, it attracted scholars throughout Asia, a precursor of the modern university whose influence can still be felt today. So much so that countries of the East Asia Summit have drawn inspiration from the ancient university to strengthen regional educational cooperation, just on this count of being an enduring symbol of the region's cultural and educational heritage. We find the property an outstanding property. While we see merit in ICOMOS' observation that criterion 3 can be applied in the analysis of the property's OUV, we agree with the State Party's use of criteria 4 and 6 for its exceptional building typologies and planning, as well as for its association and lasting impacts on beliefs, ideas, events, and living traditions. We believe ICOMOS has raised pertinent issues regarding conservation and authenticity, and thus we can support the recommendations that further research takes place to identify all repair works throughout the site and the conduct of a heritage impact assessment. We are glad that the State Party is taking steps already on these measures to safeguard the property and acknowledges that continuing work must be undertaken. We also see that adequate protection measures are in place and appreciate the assurances that no large-scale developments shall affect the property's integrity. For the above-mentioned reasons, my delegation can support the inscription of the property to the World Heritage List. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Ambassador, thank you very much. Representative of Turkey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Turkish national experts examined the nomination dossier thoroughly. Nalanda Mahavihara is an earliest and longest living example of monastic scholastic establishment, which had served for nearly 800 years, not only for India, but also for the entire South and Southeast Asia. The establishment is the largest one in terms of scale. Nalanda Mahavihara is also the example of an autonomous center of higher learning and a leading establishment with its education methods, organization system, and the facilities which are similar to a modern university. The site has a planned layout, characteristic linear adjustment, distinct zones for residential and religious activities, and a significant uniformity of architecture. On the other hand, Madam Chair, excavated remains reflect Buddhist architecture and artistic traditions of the time in the region and beyond. We think that additional information provided by the State Party in reply to ICOMOS queries provides technically convincing clarification vis-à-vis the OUV, integrity, authenticity, conservation interventions, as well as continuing research activities of the nominated property, and these are satisfactory. Turkey acknowledges the statement of the State Party that the master plan is under preparation. In this respect, we are of the view that re-evaluation and AB mission are not necessary. Turkey proposes the nominated property to be inscribed to the World Heritage List and strongly believes that this unique site will contribute to the global strategy for a representative, balanced, and credible World Heritage List, not only with its tangible heritage, but also with its intangible values and attributes. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Representative of Portugal, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I will not repeat what has already been said, which I fully share. And I'm also curious to hear the answer to the question that my Finnish colleague has raised. Let me say that we thank ICOMOS for the presentation of this very interesting and significant site, and we commend India for the preparation of the nomination. We are talking here about a site of an education establishment that for nearly 800 years was an important center of knowledge and higher education of a very ancient civilization to which we all owe much. Madam President, education and knowledge are at the heart of our organization, and this committee has rightly given them due attention. It is thus that several other centers of higher education are on our list, such as the University of Coimbra in Portugal, and we are naturally very proud of this. But allow me to stress, Madam President, that centers of learning naturally adopt different configurations according to time and the historical, religious, and cultural environments to which they belong. There is not such a thing as a blueprint, a unique model by which we can evaluate the significance of such establishments. In this particular case, we strongly believe that this site has outstanding universal value and should therefore be added to the list of World Heritage. I'm sure that India will address the issues that ICOMOS has raised in an appropriate, prompt, full, and efficient way. So we should not be worried about this. As a country that has had strong historical, cultural, and human relations with India for nearly 600 years, let me again stress the universal importance of the inscription of this property, and I thank you.
Mr. Ambassador, thank you very much. Representative of Tanzania.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for giving me the floor. First of all, the United Republic of Tanzania would like to take this opportunity to commend the State Party of India for a commendable work they have undertaken to prepare the nomination dossier and the responding comprehensively to all issues raised by the advisory bodies in the evaluation report. The State Party's decision to propose inscription of this site, which represents a common heritage of humanity, is equally commendable. This demonstrates India's commitment to protect the outstanding property for the benefit of both current and future generations. Secondly, Madam Chair, the State Party's decision to nominate the property under Criterion 4 and 6 is justified. The property meets criteria 4 on account of its exceptional building typologies, its planning and layout. This attribute firmly established the planning, architectural, as well as artistic principles that were later adopted in many similar institutions. Under Criterion 6, we note that the property manifests intangible attributes, such as modes of imparting education and many other significant attributes that make Nalanda as a university legendary. Madam Chair, the complexities and uniqueness of this property, in comparison to other similar scholastic establishments for higher learning, have been well elaborated. The conservation of the property is well assured through the management of the Archaeological Survey of India. We also note that the buffer zone is securely managed by the relevant local government authorities. Furthermore, there is adequate legal framework to support conservation of the site. Madam Chair, the OUV of the site has been well articulated. We are convinced that the property meets all the attributes of outstanding universal value, integrity, and authenticity, as well as required management, which are central to inscription of a site into the World Heritage List. On the basis of all the reasons presented in this intervention, the United Republic of Tanzania recommends that the site be inscribed in the World Heritage List. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank Thank you very much. Representative of Lebanon.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Le Liban considère que le site archéologique de l'université Nalanda, dont la valeur universelle exceptionnelle, potentielle et reconnue par l'ICOMOS, constitue un bien qui mérite une attention particulière. La fonction religieuse et universitaire du site est presque unique dans le sous-continent indien et la région panasiatique. Le critère 6, relié à la fonction du bien dans l'étude de l'enseignement des thèmes relatifs au bouddhisme, est évident. L'université Nalanda influença le développement des différentes écoles de pensée du bouddhisme à travers toute l'Asie. En conclusion, nous pensons que ce bien mérite d'être inscrit sur la liste du patrimoine mondial et nous nous joignons à l'analyse et à l'approche du distingué représentant de la Finlande concernant l'intégrité et l'authenticité du bien. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. Representative of Jamaica.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We wish to congratulate the State Party of India for taking steps to preserve and safeguard a property that upholds an extremely important element of any nation's development, that is education. We have been provided with additional information by the State Party that speaks to some of what really are legitimate concerns presented by the advisory body, and we are satisfied, having reviewed these additional documents, that these areas have been addressed. The OUV of the Nalanda site lies in its being the earliest functional scholastic center. It demonstrates a rare combination of outstanding achievements in institution building, site planning, art, and architecture. It is our view that the integrity of the site is adequately presented, as all the structural remains of Nalanda are retained at the original location where they were excavated. Given the nature of the site, Madam Chair, we are pleased that the management structures and processes include a traditional management framework and visitor management system. It is our view that the property be inscribed to the World Heritage List, and further, that the State Party continues historical research into the sites, and by extension, establish a methodology and implementation plan for documentation of this research. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative of Republic of Korea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Nalanda Mahayivara is one of the most important Buddhist heritage that needs to be protected and studied in depth to reveal the great impact and the influence of Buddhism to other parts of Asia. The structural category of stupa, chaita, and vihara are also still important concepts in distinguishing the function and the significance of Buddhist space, and therefore claims a wide cultural scope. In this same vein, the Republic of Korea gladly supports the amendment just put forward by Vietnam and Indonesia. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative of Kazakhstan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dear colleagues, Nalanda Mahavihara is the most vivid and well-known site recognized as one of the earliest and longest-serving monastic scholastic establishments. According to our experts, the legal protection in place is sufficient. The management system for the property is adequate. The integrity and authenticity of the site, as it was clearly showed by the State Party, is adequate, and the protected area contains all attributes related to stated OUV values. The large-scale constructions recognized by ICOMOS as a threat are beyond the designated buffer zone of the property, and the entire site is in a good state of preservation. Therefore, the delegation of Kazakhstan supports the amendments put forward by the distinguished delegations of Vietnam and Indonesia regarding the inscription of the Nalanda Mahavihara on the World Heritage List under criteria 4 and 6. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative of Azerbaijan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The excavated remains of Nalanda Mahavihara provide evidence for the development of architecture and the evaluation of artistic tradition in South Asia. Nalanda symbolizes the multiplicity of knowledge production, the innovative process of organized transmission of ideas through education, and the shared heritage of people living in all regions of Asia. All surviving remains of Nalanda Mahavihara in the proposed property area demonstrate and apply the attributes of the property, such as its planning and layout, its architectural manifestation, and extant building materials and applied ornamental establishments. The excavated remains of Nalanda use minimal intervention for consolidation works only and retain the original system and non-perishable materials for original construction. The excavated site of Nalanda is owned, protected, maintained, and managed by the government of India. And you know what it means. It means the site in the good hands. The excavated site of Nalanda meets criteria mentioned in the nomination dossier and has outstanding universal value. We fully agree with our colleagues and would like to invite the World Heritage Committee to revise the draft decision. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative of Tunisia, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. La Tunisie a bien lu l'évaluation de l'ICOMOS, mais les réponses fournies par l'État partie nous ont convaincus. De même que nous avons été très sensibles aux explications avancées par le Vietnam et l'Indonésie. Par conséquent, la Tunisie soutient vivement l'inscription de ce bien culturel qui révèle parfaitement son authenticité et son intégrité et qui incarne à la fois toute une vie culturelle, spirituelle qui avait eu une influence dans toute la région du sud-est asiatique. Nous sommes sûrs par ailleurs, tel que l'a bien noté M. l'ambassadeur du Portugal, que l'Inde saura répondre dans un futur proche aux demandes et recommandations de l'ICOMOS. Par conséquent, nous recommandons l'inscription de ce bien sur la liste du patrimoine mondial. Merci.
Thank you very much. Representative of Croatia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Croatia would like to congratulate the State Party for this remarkable nomination. And considering the length of time that Mahivara University was functional and that it was the largest center of learning of its time, firmly established planning architecture as well as artistic principles that were adopted by many similar institutions later because of its influence and great importance, we would like to support the draft decision and also would like to hear from the State Party. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative of Poland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Poland joins others in opinion that the site deserves inscription. We think that the site meets criteria rather 3 than 6, as pointed out by ICOMOS. Nevertheless, we will go with the majority's opinion on this respect. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative of Peru.
Muchas gracias, señora presidenta. La delegación del Perú ha analizado de manera muy prolija el proyecto de decisión presentado por el centro y el órgano consultivo, así como los análisis más específicos realizados por ICOMOS. Nuestra conclusión de ese análisis es que el valor universal excepcional de Nalanda Mahavihara no está contestado por el órgano consultivo y sus preocupaciones más bien se orientan hacia la identificación de los criterios que sustenten el BUE y de algunos elementos de la condición de integridad y autenticidad. Sin embargo, las informaciones presentadas con posterioridad y de manera bastante exhaustiva por el Estado parte, creo que han absuelto estas preocupaciones y nos resulta claro que el BUE está adecuadamente sustentado en el proyecto modificatorio de la decisión, así como los criterios básicos de autenticidad e integridad. Nos parece muy importante que en la parte relativa a las recomendaciones del proyecto de decisión se hayan incorporado prácticamente todas las preocupaciones de ICOMOS y estamos absolutamente seguros que el Estado parte, dentro de los plazos razonables, sabrá poner en práctica estas recomendaciones, especialmente aquellas relativas a la investigación histórica, con el apoyo de documentación apropiada para solventar de manera mucho más sólida el criterio de la integridad. Por estas razones, señora Presidente, respaldamos la modificación y la inscripción del bien en la lista del Patrimonio Mundial. Gracias.
Thank you very much. Representative of Zimbabwe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Zimbabwe supports the proposed amendment by Indonesia and Vietnam for the inscription of the archaeological site of Nalanda on the World Heritage site. On the World Heritage list, the site provides a significant, the site is a significant, as one of the earliest learning, educational, and spiritual centers in our civilization. It also has a lasting impact that we feel today in Buddhism, in education, and other spheres of social development. We are convinced and satisfied by the clarifications that the State Party has offered to justify its choice of the criteria under which this site is to be inscribed. We are also impressed by the institutional framework that has been put in place to manage and protect this site. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Representative of Burkina Faso.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Ma délégation voudrait faire écho des félicitations faites à l'Inde pour la proposition d'inscription du site de Nalanda. S'agissant de la valeur universelle exceptionnelle du bien, le dossier de candidature contient en effet des éléments qui représentent, à notre point de vue, des critères définis dans le dossier de candidature. Nous reconnaissons également que des mesures juridiques ainsi que des mesures de conservation sont prises par l'État partie. Les informations qui sont fournies nous rassurent par rapport aux observations qui ont été faites par ICOMOS. C'est pourquoi nous pensons être en mesure de supporter les propositions d'amendement proposées par Vietnam. Je vous remercie, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you. Representative of Angola.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Nous avons lu également avec attention le rapport présenté par l'organisation consultative et nous avons également regardé les éléments présentés, les éléments additionnels présentés par l'État partie, dont nous pensons que la VUE est bien étayée et bien justifiée. Donc, nous soutenons l'inscription de ces sites tout en recommandant à l'État partie de prendre en considération les recommandations donc, de l'organe consultatif, surtout d'approfondir les recherches sur les aspects scientifiques. Je pense que la VUE de ces sites ou les valeurs de ces sites peuvent vraiment inspirer sur comment aujourd'hui la formation, que ce soit académique, que ce soit religieuse, peut continuer donc à contribuer au développement du monde et des universités, des écoles que nous connaissons, et que ça pourrait aider les jeunes à pouvoir s'inspirer de ces valeurs pour pouvoir contribuer donc au développement de la planète. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your comments. I see no more requests for the floor from the committee members. Now I give the floor to the representative of ICOMOS to answer the questions.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. I only noted one question which was raised by Finland, but was also referred to by the delegations of Lebanon and Portugal. And the question was addressing the integrity of the property in relation to the boundaries, asking why the full extent of the property would need to be known at this point before inscription. Now, the observation ICOMOS had on this matter is that ICOMOS is aware that subsurface remains, both structural remains and artifacts related to the site of Nalanda exist in the buffer zone, and we are not fully sure if they perhaps also exist beyond the buffer zone, which would need to be clarified in order to ensure that the complete archaeological complex is protected in the future, in particular as development pressures occur outside the buffer zone, where eventually further structural remains could be located. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative of Cuba, you have the floor.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Para Cuba era muy importante la respuesta de ICOMOS con relación a las preguntas que se le habían hecho vinculadas con la integridad del sitio. Nos parece que realmente existen precedentes de sitios bajo la visión de un sitio arqueológico que permite en la evolución de las investigaciones continuar reafirmando, consolidando el valor del sitio a partir de esas investigaciones posteriores, y que de hecho la propia convención nos permite en un futuro pues darle cabida a esa nueva visión de la integridad del sitio. Por tanto, estamos de acuerdo con la inscripción del sitio. Gracias.
Thank you very much. Almost all the members of the committee took floor for this item, and we see a clear majority is in favor of inscription of this site. May I ask Mrs. Cho to present the amendment on this draft decision?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, as many distinguished delegates have indicated, I have received an amendment from the distinguished delegates of Vietnam and Indonesia. If we could switch to the screens, please. Thank you. The proposed delegation is to change paragraph 2. Inscribes the archaeological site of Nalanda Mahavihara, Nalanda University at Nalanda, Bihar, India, on the World Heritage List on the basis of criteria 4 and 6. I would just like to make a small note. Does the distinguished delegates wish to keep the Mahavihara in italic, because they made a very little point of putting the Mahavihara in the middle just before Nalanda University in italic? I would just like to confirm that. And we move on to para 3. We took the liberty of changing the amendment to take note of the following provisional statement of outstanding universal value. This is the standard language that the committee adopts when a property is being moved from deferral to inscription, because a draft text that has been agreed on by both the state party and the advisory bodies has not yet been presented. So we would just like to have paragraph 3 amended as takes note of the provisional statement of OUV. As this could be changed, I would just like to move over to paragraph 4, which talks about the recommendations. Recommends that the state party give consideration to the following. And I believe all the distinguished delegates has a printed out copy in front of them, so I will just read it very shortly. To continue carry out historical research supported by appropriate documentation to establish the authenticity of the property with particular attention to the identification of all excavation works. And it goes on. Paragraph B is to ensure that integrated master plan of Nalanda, keeping in mind national and regional laws, is prepared and implemented by the state government of Bihar that takes care of the concerns of any development in the vicinity of the property that may impact its OUV. Subpara C, conduct a heritage impact assessment in accordance with the ICOMOS guidance on heritage impact assessment for World Cultural Heritage properties for any development plans within the vicinity of the property. Subpara D, continue to develop methodology and implementation plan for the documentation and conservation of the property in order to guarantee the protection of its authenticity and integrity. Paragraph 5 requests the state party to A, work out the conservation plan for the excavated remains of the property, safeguarding its OUV and authenticity. Subpara B, strengthen approaches to visitor management and interpretation through a well-established visitor management plan. And subpara C is remaining from the original draft decision to consider changing the name of the nominated property to the archaeological site of Nalanda Mahavihara, but we have just indicated in paragraph 1 that the property name would be changed, so with your permission, I would just like to delete out subpara C. The remaining original paragraph 3 is deleted. These are the amendments that I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Jo. If there are no more comments or objections, representative of Finland, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Since we again have recommendations in this draft decision, I would like to put in the standard paragraph in the end as we did in the case of the rock art site in China. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative of Poland.
Thank you. Like in previous case, you would like to add the last paragraph on the report on the implementation of the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can we see this last amendment? Yes, it's on the screen. So is there any more comment or objection? Our rapporteur, Mrs. Jo.
Yes, sorry, we have a discrepancy between the French and the English with the year and the session that we are going to examine it. I believe that we would like to ask for the report for 2017 to the 42nd session in 2018. Thank you.
I see no more requests for the floor. I now declare decision 40-8B 20 adopted as amended. May I congratulate India on behalf of entire committee for the inscription of this site. She is surrounded. Congratulations, India. I would like to invite India I give the floor to the representative of India for a brief 2-minute statement. You have the floor, India.
Thank you, Madam Chair. India warmly and fulsomely thanks the members of the World Heritage Committee for a just full recognition of what is clearly an exceptional and outstanding nomination. The University of Nalanda was one of the foremost monastic-cum-scholastic institutions of the ancient world, with an enviable physical structure, outstanding human resources, and an exceptionally organized internal management system. An institution where scholars from near and far, particularly South Asia, East Asia, Southeast Asia, as far as Turkey, studied and took back with them pearls of wisdom put to good use in their respective countries. The institution flourished for about 800 years under the patronage of great Hindu kings, a seat of Buddhist studies, but where subjects such as philosophy, logic, grammar, medicine, astronomy, etc. were also taught to brilliant minds, most exactingly recruited, I dare say, such as the Oxfords, Harvards, and Sorbonnes of date. In recognizing this institution, which was a peerless and matchless seat of wisdom in ancient India, UNESCO, indeed the world, pays tribute to the most prized possession of them all, knowledge. Knowledge which in the Indian tradition can only grow by giving, and which lies at the heart of the organization UNESCO, which brings us here today. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Madam Ambassador. I now invite ICOMOS to present the nomination of the Persian qanat, Islamic Republic of Iran. But before I give the floor to the Secretariat, Mr. Balsamo, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to remind the committee that we received a notification of factual errors concerning this nomination, which is to be found on page 81 of document in fact before and page 85 of the French version of the same document. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Representative of ICOMOS.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I'm presenting the ICOMOS evaluation of the Persian qanat in the Islamic Republic of Iran. However, ICOMOS would like to acknowledge that additional information has been received on this property after February 28th, which hence could not be considered in the evaluation report. The Persian qanat is a serial nomination of 11 qanat water channels supporting agriculture areas and permanent settlements through the arid regions of Iran. The qanat system taps alluvial aquifers at the heads of valleys and conducts it along underground tunnels. The serial nomination consists of 11 components in 6 of Iran's central and eastern provinces. Each qanat component consists of its physical structure, including well and maintenance shafts, galleries, and distribution and storage structures such as hammams and reservoirs. The key feature of qanat are almost horizontal tunnels collecting underground water through the use of a mother well. Maintenance shafts are sunk at regular intervals to enable the removal of spoil and allow adequate ventilation. The water is conducted by gravity due to the gentle slope of the tunnel to the exit, from where the water is distributed to the various shareholders. The Ibrahimabad qanat was built in the 10th century and runs for 11 kilometers with 311 wells on its main branch. And part of the catchment area around the mother well here is included in the property. The Kasabe qanat dates to the 3rd century BCE with a length of 13 kilometers and 220 wells. The site includes a series of depending structures such as rest house, water reservoir, and water mills. Here you see the aerial perspective of a soil crater to protect the well shaft of Ibrahimabad qanat. The qanat of Goharis, here seen as a series of shafts, was built around the year 600 and runs about 3.5 kilometers with 6 branches. The Hasamabad qanat and the Abad qanat are located within the World Heritage Property of Bam and its cultural landscape, and are the most recent qanat of this nomination, constructed around 100 years ago. The Vaswan qanat dates to the 13th century and runs for about 2 kilometers with 64 wells. This qanat has an access corridor that leads to an underground dike which can be blocked in winter. The Most Abad qanat was built in the 5th century and has a length of 18 kilometers with 615 wells. It includes 6 water mills and a rest house as well. The Moon qanat dates back to the year 578, and due to the impermeability of its clay surface, it was possible to construct it as a 2-level qanat. The qanat system represents within Iran a traditional communal management system which guarantees equitable, sustainable management and distribution of water. The qanat system also supports the agricultural sustainability of the region. Moreover, qanats are used to distribute water into urban and residential settlements among various shareholders. And many qanats hence include dependent structures such as rest houses, public and private hammams, reservoirs, as seen here, and water mills. And the qanat system is what has enabled the development of the Iranian Central Plateau. And as such, the system illustrates the expansion of the urban environment with the presence of water through qanat. The water continues to be distributed today in traditional ways by a qanat council managers using a water clock. In its evaluation, ICOMOS considers that at this stage, the comparative analysis does not justify the inscription of this serial property. In addition, ICOMOS considers that the qualifying conditions of integrity or authenticity have not been met at this stage. As shown in the graphic, ICOMOS does not consider that criteria 1, 2, and 6 could be justified, but recommends to further analyze possible justification based on criteria 3, 4, and 5. The current conservation and management and protection measures are adequate, but could be further strengthened. In particular, management strategies and plans should include risk preparedness and visitor management aspects for all components of the nominated property. In conclusion, ICOMOS considers that the boundaries in the buffer zone at this stage do not include all components of the water management system. And this leads to the recommendation that the nomination of the Persian qanat should be deferred in order to allow the state party to further augment the comparative analysis, reconsider the selection of components and their boundaries to ensure integrity of the proposed serial nomination through inclusion of all elements of the qanat system, in particular catchment and irrigated areas. And ICOMOS further notes that any revised nomination would need to be considered by omission and remains available within the framework of upstream processes to offer advice on the above-mentioned recommendations. In addition, ICOMOS recommends to elaborate the current management system and to make the data related to each qanat available to the local communities. Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you, ICOMOS, for your presentation. Now the floor is open for the comments of the member countries. Representative of Lebanon, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The issue of access to water and the use of water has become a critical issue over recent years in a context of climate change. Technical systems for the acquisition and use of water have steadily increased in scale, requiring increasing quantities of resources which are often non-renewable. In this context, the return to traditional cultural heritages linked to water seems to be a necessary approach. In light of this, ICOMOS published in 2015 a very interesting thematic study on cultural heritages of water in the Middle East and Maghreb. This thematic study points out the extreme variety of terrestrial geoclimatic conditions, as well as a variety of social and technical responses in the different subregions covered by the thematic study. As for the Iranian subregion, the thematic study notes that, quote, "The qanats in Iran have created and supported life and all elements of human ecosystem from millenniums and are influenced by those elements. Without qanats, thousands of villages and towns in Iran may not be able to continue flourishing in the future or even to have been there at all." This is what forms the basis for the nomination of the Persian Canal that we are examining at the moment. The nomination is presented under criteria 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. In its detailed evaluation, ICOMOS recognizes that only criteria 3 and 4 could be justified on 2 conditions. As for criterion 2, ICOMOS requires that the attributes in the water catchment area and in the downstream demand area should be included within the nominated property. Additional informations given by the state party and that we could get indicate clearly that the nominated areas include both the qanat structure, red zone, and the demand areas, green zone, while the water catchment areas, blue zones, are included in the buffer zones since they cover large areas shared by other qanats and water distribution systems and do not belong proper to selected components of the series. As for criterion 3, ICOMOS recognized that the qanat infrastructure is an outstanding example of traditional technology which has been developed and refined over a long period of time, but requires that the comparative analysis should be more developed to show how the Persian canals differ from other types of traditional irrigation and management systems. Since NARA, we know that the OUV should be assessed in relation with geocultural specificities. Obviously, there are other canals everywhere in the world, but Persian canals have specificities. These specificities, Persian canals are specific in that they constitute a technological ensemble covering the entire arid core of the central Iranian plateau and the creation of underground desert urban planning, etc., etc., etc. Once more, we have also the intangible elements that links the canal to Persian culture. Given all what foresaid and the fact that the protective measures as well as the conservation measures, as said clearly in ICOMOS report, are adequate and that the management system is also adequate, we have proposed to inscribe the property on World Heritage List based on criteria 2 and 3 only and to remove the other criteria originally proposed by the state party. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative of Portugal. Representative of Portugal, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I will not elaborate on what already our Lebanese colleague has said and with which I fully agree. But let me commend Iran for the submission of this candidature and for the work invested in its preparation. This is a property with unquestionable outstanding universal value, and we believe it belongs to the World Heritage List. As we have heard, irrigation systems in arid regions are in fact outstanding engineering works that allow life to thrive in most adverse conditions. Their recognition as a heritage of humanity is a way to also highlight the capacity of human beings to adapt to extreme environments. Qanats, and especially the Persian qanat, are directly linked to the history and culture of one of the regions that is at the origin of civilization and should be acknowledged as such. We agree that there is still work to be done, but we are sure that next year the state party will be able to present us a detailed report addressing all recommendations made by this committee. We therefore agree that the nomination is described on the World Heritage List under criteria 3 and 4. And we look forward to this and to be able to congratulate Iran. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. Representative of Kuwait.
شكرا سعادة رئيسة. تمثل قنوات الري الفارسية إحدى أروع القيم الإنسانية في مرحلة مهمة في التطور التكنولوجي في إدارة موارد المياه في بيئة قاسية. ونرى أن ملف الموقع المرشح للتسجيل يستوفي بعض المعايير المقترحة لتسجيل الموقع على لائحة التراث، كما أن ردود الدولة الطرف حول ملاحظات الإيكوموس واللجان الاستشارية بشأن المنطقة العازلة وأنظمة إدارة القنوات تتسم بالوضوح. كما نود أن نثني على المعلومات الإضافية التي تم تزويدنا بها من قبل الدولة الطرف والتي ساهمت في تنفيذ الملاحظات. ونشكر أيضا الدولة، وبناء على ذلك فإننا نؤيد مقترح التعديل المقدم من جمهورية لبنان ليضم المعيار الثالث والرابع. شكرا.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. Representative of Indonesia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Indonesia would like to convey its appreciation to the government of Iran for their excellent works in nominating the Persian qanat. We consider this traditional irrigation system as a sophisticated achievement, not only for Iran but also for the region, where water could be an important issue. This traditional system is an evidence that technology could be nature-friendly and last for centuries. We are informed that the state party Iran has provided additional information and explanation on the evaluation made by the advisory board, especially concerning the specification and comparative analysis in the nomination. As we learn from those additional explanations, it is clear to us that the Persian qanat has in fact its own uniqueness in comparison to the other qanats. The nominated qanat is in fact a desert irrigation system which is different compared to the other qanat that have been already inscribed before. Furthermore, we cannot disregard the fact that the nominated Persian qanat system was a fundamental factor that has contributed to the development of the underground urban area of the Yat, and therefore is unique. Having studied carefully all the information available to us, we are of the view that the Persian qanat deserves to be inscribed to the World Heritage List. Therefore, we would like to join the distinguished delegation of Lebanon to support the inscription of the Persian qanat to the World Heritage List. I thank you.
Thank you. Representative of Vietnam, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, the advisory body says that the weakest point of this nomination is comparative analysis. Let me consolidate that comparative analysis, Madam Chair. In the world at the moment, there are 50,000 qanat in more than 40 countries. Some of them have been enlisted as UNESCO World Heritage Site. But the 12 qanat selected by the state party are different from those 50,000 qanat in the world, especially those in Oman, China, Spain, and India. They are chosen on the basis of historical context, geographical variation, and technical evaluation. This is the longest qanat in the world, more than 80 kilometers. This is the deepest water well in the world, more than 300 meters. Double and triple gallery, each over the other with common well. This is the double gala qanat. This is the constructions underground dams in order to store waters in winter. And also the uniqueness lies in the utilizations of composite complex system in order to use water from different sources. And this qanat is all unique in the sense that it's time-bound usage of water instead of volume-based. And it's also help for the town formation based in qanat in desert. We know that there are a lot of different qanat in the mountains thanks to gravity, in the river, but those qanats run through deserts. And thanks to this system of qanat, cities are formulated and established in desert. So I believe this is a very strong attachment that can form OUV for this nomination. This is my first point, Madam Chair. My second point, that ICOMOS states that it needs to include watchment and demand area into the water. I agree. But as soon as the state party can do that, I think, number one, we do not need to have a mission. Number two, if the state party is able, in the next committee, to identify the catchment area and the demand area, then I believe that nominations should be inscribed not only on criteria 3, 4, but also on criteria 5, which reflects the interactions between human settlement and nature. The other weakness of this nomination is that the state party comes up with so many criteria, 6. So sometimes it's misleading the experts. In conclusion, Madam Chair, these sites deserve inscription. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative of Croatia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Croatia would like to congratulate Iran for this nomination, celebrating both life and technological innovation. Persian qanats are highly sophisticated technological constructions in the climatic, cultural, social conditions given. We see both the tangible and intangible value of this nomination. State Party has a constructive dialogue with ICOMOS, and we would like to thank also ICOMOS for this, following their recommendations. And we consider this unique site will be an added value to the World Heritage List. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative of Turkey, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Centuries-old qanat system of Iran is an excellent accomplishment which not only has created its own special development, but also has produced a distinct cultural tradition. An essential role of the qanat has been creating and expanding agriculture and irrigation in generally dry regions of the world, especially in the Iranian plateau. This role has had a remarkable influence on settling inhabitants and flourishing of human communities. The 11 selected qanats that were nominated by the State Party demonstrate the styles of qanat development in various regions, different environments, different cultural, political, and social features. These qanats also cope with extreme climatic and geographic situations in the rather dry and severe natural conditions. These examples reveal the technological variation organized in the qanat structure, and also they indicate the process of development and evolution of the technology with regard to geographical conditions in desert regions of the central plateau of Iran. Thus, technical importance of these examples is no less valuable than such surface structures as bridges, castles, towers, etc. The relation between qanat architectural structures and urban infrastructures generates part of the city landscape. For instance, the Yazd city, the city and its qanat have together formed the underground and above-the-ground landscapes. Besides, we also acknowledge that in 2005, the government of Iran and UNESCO have signed an agreement to establish the International Center for Qanats and Historic Hydraulic Structures, and an annual budget of $15 million has been allocated by the Iranian government from 2005 till 2009 for the reconstruction and maintenance of the qanats. Therefore, we would like to congratulate the State Party on their efforts regarding the protection of this historic and traditional system through legal and local measures. To conclude, Madam Chair, we acknowledge the efforts made by the State Party and their enthusiasm to inscribe the qanats in the World Heritage List. Turkey supports the inscription of Persian qanat under criteria 3 and 4 in the Heritage List. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. Representative of Republic of Korea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We are deeply interested in seeing the Persian qanat being recognized for its significant value as one of the first complete water irrigation systems, which demonstrate the adaptation of human life to the arid conditions of the region. The Persian qanat played an important role in the formation of civilization, that thus contributing to the prosperity of desert town. As e-commerce recommends more thorough comparative studies to justify its specific nature of the property, Republic of Korea would like to request the State Party of Iran to implement the recommendations of e-commerce and World Heritage Center. At the same time, Republic of Korea hopes the Persian qanat is protected and preserved well as a traditional water system with more strengthened management strategy and plans. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative of Peru, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias, señora presidenta. Los qanat en Irán constituyen sistemas tradicionales cuyas características han sido relevadas y que han tenido y tienen una excepcional importancia para la subsistencia de poblaciones y comunidades humanas en el aprovechamiento de un recurso tan esencial como el agua. Sin embargo, la existencia de estos sistemas de captación y distribución y aprovechamiento de agua en sí mismos no pueden justificar su inscripción en la lista del Patrimonio Mundial. No todo sistema de canalización y acceso al agua, aún en zonas semiáridas y áridas, reúnen las condiciones para ser inscritas en la lista del Patrimonio Mundial. Es necesario que se demuestre la existencia del BUE y que concurran las condiciones de autenticidad y de integridad. En este caso, inicialmente el Estado parte sustentó la existencia de un valor universal excepcional en los criterios 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 y 6. Y como nos parece que con razón y con un sustento técnico muy adecuado, señaló que no se demuestra la existencia del BUE en los criterios 1, 2, 5 y 6, pero reconoció y fundamentó que con los criterios 3 y 4 sí se da la configuración del valor universal excepcional. En el proyecto de enmienda, el Estado parte ha recogido la opinión técnica de ICOMOS, ha eliminado la sustentación del BUE en los criterios que no habrían estado suficientemente fundamentados y desarrollados, y ha coincidido con ICOMOS en el sentido que el bien sustenta su valor universal excepcional solo y exclusivamente en los criterios 3 y 4. Las condiciones de integridad han sido demostradas, especialmente en relación a las expresiones físicas y estructurales del bien, y 11 qanats poseen los elementos de autenticidad claramente establecidos en cuanto a diseño, tecnologías, materiales de construcción y sistemas de gestión. Existen también elementos de saberes y técnicas tradicionales. Por todo esto, la delegación del Perú considera que en este caso, finalmente al reducirse a los criterios 3 y 4, se da una coincidencia básica entre lo señalado por el órgano consultivo y la propuesta de enmienda, razón por la cual la delegación del Perú apoya la inscripción del bien en la lista del patrimonio cultural de la humanidad. Muchas gracias, señora presidenta.
Thank you very much. Representative of Jamaica.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We congratulate the State Party of Iran for preserving a dynamic ancient water system that is over 100 years old. The system could be considered as being well ahead of its time as we see a structure that carried many sustainable elements, so much so that the 11 qanats are still in use today and distribute water for use in agriculture and human settlements. The integrity of this unique site is highlighted by the survival of the qanats throughout centuries as a result of a traditional management system. The authenticity of the site includes references to design, technology, traditions, and indigenous culture. Guided by additional information from the state party, Jamaica believes the OUB has been adequately justified and supports the inscription of the site. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Representative of Kazakhstan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Qanat, which is an ancient system of water distribution, is well known in some parts of the world. However, the system in Iran is indeed very old and enjoys various construction techniques. The qanat in desert environment shows very interesting innovative characteristics, as the geographical situation in the central plateau of Iran has led to an outstanding technical diversity, which is unique in its way of construction, water distribution system, length, and depth. Driven from the information mentioned in the dossier, as well as additional information provided by the state party, we are convinced that criteria 3 and 4 are totally justified. Having said that, the delegation of Kazakhstan strongly supports the inscription of the Persian qanat on the World Heritage List, based on the above-mentioned criteria. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative of Azerbaijan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Qanat is a very important asset, especially for the countries located in arid and desert areas facing with water crisis. This traditional method of water harvesting has been innovated for centuries and is totally in coordination and interaction with the nature. Qanat is an example of the sustainable development based on environment, and the inscription of this property can play an important role in the preservation as well as dissemination of this model in the world. And due to this fact, our delegation supports the inscription of the nominate file of qanat in the light of the additional information and clarification provided by State Party. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative of Tanzania.
Madam Chair, the United Republic of Tanzania has reviewed the nomination dossier presented by Islamic Republic of Iran, as well as the evaluation report by ICOMOS. There are 3 subjects mentioned in an ICOMOS evaluation report. It is to be noted that qanats are classified in 3 categories, namely mountain qanat, semi-mountain qanat, and desert qanat. This property is compared with other regions and its uniqueness is established. The issue of technology diversity and its role in the formation of town and settlement are unique. Considering the above, United Republic of Tanzania supporting the inscription of the property under criteria 3 and 4. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Representative of Burkina Faso.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Le système d'adduction d'eau de qanat est une création architecturale, mais aussi technologique, exceptionnelle de l'humanité. Ce système, au cours de millions d'années, a sécurisé des groupes humains des régions persiennes dont les conditions climatiques désertiques étaient assez sévères. Aussi, à la suite du rapport de l'organe consultatif et après avoir examiné les renseignements supplémentaires ainsi que les éclaircissements soumis par l'État partie, sa nouvelle proposition pour prendre en compte les critères 3 et 4 afin de répondre aux préoccupations de l'ICOMOS, ma délégation est rassurée que le dossier de candidature du qanat persan est justifié et approprié pour être inscrit sur la liste du patrimoine mondial de l'UNESCO. Par conséquent, nous soutenons son inscription. Nous voulons donc féliciter la République islamique d'Iran pour avoir sélectionné ce bien et l'encourageons à tout mettre en œuvre pour sa conservation. Enfin, nous tenons à remercier ICOMOS ainsi que le Centre du patrimoine pour leur soutien et leurs réflexions constructives et positives sur ce bien culturel. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much. Representative of Zimbabwe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The importance of this nomination in its contribution to humanity, to humanity's understanding of the benefits that arise from careful management of resources is an important factor in this site. We congratulate the State Party for submitting this property for nomination on the World Heritage List. The qanat system shows all the elements of sustainable development 100 years before we even began to talk about sustainable development or understand it. Zimbabwe acknowledges the OUV of this property and is satisfied with the measures that have been put in place to conserve and manage the property. We are also satisfied with the additional information provided by the State Party in terms of clarification of its OUV on the basis of the recommendations from the advisory bodies. We also recommend its inscription on the World Heritage List and recommend as well that the State Party works very closely with ICOMOS to address some of the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative of Poland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Persian qanat represented by 11 selected sites deserve inscription on the World Heritage List. Speaking from our national experience, preparation of site for nomination is not just an expensive exercise. It is a hugely positive process that benefits protection of the site and capacity building. We would like to underline that we do not look at the nomination as a nicely edited paperwork that follows a grid format. For us, they are a proof that the State Party, together with site managers, do understand the significance of the property, know why they protect them, and are able to communicate it. Poland supports inscription, but we would feel more comfortable to say yes on the basis of a clear and convincing justification. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative of Tunisia.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. La Tunisie s'aligne aux amendements apportés par le Liban. En effet, ce bien tel qu'il se présente est absolument unique. Il est vrai que d'autres pays dans le Maghreb, notamment la Tunisie, possèdent d'autres systèmes de distribution de l'eau et qui remontent, quelques-uns d'entre eux remontent à l'époque médiévale. Mais le système des qanats présenté par l'Iran, leur architecture, leur étendue, le savoir-faire technologique est absolument édifiant et unique, ainsi que l'impact socio-économique qui en découle. Cela, d'autant plus qu'ils répondent à nos préoccupations actuelles de réchauffement climatique et du développement durable. Nous relevons par ailleurs que l'État partie a pris en compte l'intégration d'autres éléments, tels que demandés par l'ICOMOS et dont le rapport n'a pas pu prendre en ligne de compte. Pour toutes ces raisons, nous recommandons l'inscription de ce bien au patrimoine mondial. Merci.
Thank you very much. I see no more requests for the floor from the members of the committee. I now give the floor to the representative of ICOMOS.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. We did not note any question to ICOMOS during the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I can give the floor now to our rapporteur, Mrs. Zhou, to present the amendments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have the amendments submitted by the distinguished delegate of Lebanon, and these are now shown on the screens. The first paragraph remains the same as the original, and the second paragraph, they wish to mention the removal of these 4 criteria that do not comply. But if the distinguished delegate is happy, may permit me, we would just like to go with the remaining paragraph 3, which just indicates which of the criteria are actually justified for the inscription. Thank you. Yes. So we would just strike out paragraph 2, and paragraph 3 reads, inscribes the Persian qanat, Islamic Republic of Iran, on the World Heritage List on the basis of criteria 3 and 4. I would just like to confirm that it's criteria 3 and 4 only, because there has been a few interventions which mention different numbers, but it's criteria 3 and 4. We go down. Here again, paragraph 4, we would like to take note of the following provisional statement of outstanding universal value, and the rest is a provisional SOUV, which will be adopted later when the text has been agreed upon. So we move down again to the recommendations. Existing paragraph 4, which was the upstream process, has been deleted. Paragraph 5 from the original draft is kept. And then a new paragraph 6 has been added. Requests the state party to submit to the World Heritage Center by 1st of December 2017 a report on the implementation of the above-mentioned recommendations for examination by the World Heritage Committee at its 42nd session in 2018. These are the amendments proposed for this draft decision. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. As the distinguished delegate of Vietnam, Mrs. Zhou, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excuse me for taking the floor again. We just received an amendment from the distinguished delegate of Vietnam proposing to include criteria 5 onto the draft decision. If I could just read the text that has been submitted by the Vietnamese delegation. Criteria 5, the Persian qanat system is an outstanding example of human interaction with the environment, providing an environmentally and culturally sustainable land use in arid or semi-arid regions of the world. Qanat drains the aquifer by force of gravity, so its discharge always stays in balance with the recharge of the aquifer. And this is the justification that they have referred to in order to include criterion 5 onto the draft decision. Thank you. These are the amendments.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Zhou. Vietnam, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The State Party proposes nominations under 6 criteria. And then after discussions, they think that it's better to propose it under 2 criteria that the majority of committee members support. But in the analysis by ICOMOS, criteria 5 is there, very strongly potential, if water catchment is included. So when you talk about the 3 criteria, criteria 4, it's weak because of the lack of not inadequate comparative analysis. Now we have been able to address that. So criteria 4 is in. Criteria 3, they suggest to put it in and we support it with the condition that water catchment area is included. But once water catchment area is included, that strengthens the criteria 5, which is an example of traditional human settlement and the interaction between human being and the environment. So this is the reason why the Vietnamese delegation proposed to include criteria 5 in this revised amendment put forward by Lebanon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Representative of Lebanon.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Chair. Well, we are a little bit, we question a little bit the possibility now with the current dossier presented by the State Party to include criterion 5, although obviously there are potentialities. I would like to ask, first of all, to get the opinion of ICOMOS on this, knowing that anyway, if the property is inscribed under criterion 3 and 4 now, it could be later on, new criteria could later on be added. I would like to ask the opinion of ICOMOS concerning criterion 5 in the present situation of the dossier.
Thank you very much. Representative of Cuba.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Cuba, que apoya esta propuesta de decisión general de inscribir el sitio, también quisiera más información vinculada con los criterios por los cuales pudiera inscribirse del órgano consultivo, teniendo en cuenta de que esto es un elemento crucial para identificar tanto el valor universal excepcional como los atributos en los cuales descansa ese valor universal excepcional y en correspondencia todas las acciones de conservación posteriores. Gracias.
Thank you very much. May I invite the representative of ICOMOS to give their opinion on this matter?
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson, and indeed we would be glad to give our opinion on this matter and thank the Honorable Delegate of Lebanon for his question. It was in particular with regard to the potential inclusion of criterion 5 and the human interaction with the environment that could be documented by the water management system represented by the qanat that ICOMOS had concerns regarding the integrity of the property, given that these larger human interaction with the environment would require to be illustrated by a complete system, including components that are not currently part of the nomination, in particular the water catchment areas, but also the larger use of the water resources in its distribution in agricultural areas and other aspects. And hence the criterion would go beyond the technological aspects of the qanat represented by criterion 4 and the cultural tradition that is referred to in criterion 3, which are perhaps better within the current property boundaries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madame Rostar, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I just would like to answer the question of from Lebanon on adding criteria later on. This would be in line with paragraph 166, which means you would prepare a renomination under an additional criterion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative of Lebanon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In view of what ICOMOS said just now, we think that it's better not to include for the time being criterion 5 in order to keep the coherence of the integrity of the property. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative of Vietnam, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The end objective of the debate is to support the inscription. Vietnam has no problem with that. But we would like to make 2 points. Firstly, criteria 5 is the criteria under which this nomination is put forward originally. It's not a new criteria that just come up now. Secondly, in the report by ICOMOS, page 98, which I quote, ICOMOS consider that the Carta, the water catchment area, and the distribution system could form an outstanding example of human interaction with the environment. I just take that from ICOMOS. So I don't know how come ICOMOS come up with another interpretation. But in order to support the consensus in the room, Vietnam is pleased to withdraw. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Vietnam. So, representative of Poland, you have the floor.
Thank you. We support the opinion of Lebanon on the criterion 5. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If there are no more comments or any objection, I declare that decision 40-8B-21 is adopted as amended. May I congratulate Iran on behalf of the entire committee for this inscription. Now I would like to give the floor to the representative of Iranian delegation for a brief 2-minute statement.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Some second more than 2 minutes until I can have the ground. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I would like to thank all distinguished committee members, ICOMOS, World Heritage Center colleagues. I don't want to repeat the importance of the property as it was mentioned, but I want to say one thing, that 1,000 years ago, Nasser Khosrow, the famous poet that UNESCO recently approved his celebration of 1,000, in his travel book, he mentioned one of the qanat that you inscribed today, the Ghasabeh. And at that time, he said that it is 1,000 years ago, exactly 993 years ago. He mentioned in that book that this qanat had a 700-meter mother well. And at that time, he named that qanat Khosrow, which is the mythological king of Iran, Persia. I want to say that with your vote, you have gone beyond the voice of history, and now the spirit of all those who work there are very happy. Let me tell you, just if you give me a few seconds, I think this is a historical moment for tradition, for a spirit, and I think I can say on behalf of qanats, the old qanats of Iran, as they say, dreaming when dawn's left hand was in the sky, I heard a voice within the qanat cry, thank you, committee members, and fill the cup before life liquor in its cup be dry. But it and about, but evermore came out, with the seed of wisdom you did sow, and with your own vote labored it to grow. And this was all the harvest that I reaped. I came like water, and like wine I go. Iram garden is gone with all its rose, and Jamshid's 7-ringed cup. where no one knows, but still the vine watered by the ancient qanat yields, and still a garden by its water blows. And we say from here to all of these old qanats, which some of them are from Achaemenid times, we say, okay, while the rose blows along your brink, with Omar Khayyam and Ruby vintage drink, and when we bring you the World Heritage writ, draws up to you, take that and do not shrink. 4 centuries, with the master's skill profound, Persian qanats bring water's life force underground. With grateful thanks, we express our delight that this is now a World Heritage Site. Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations, Iran.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Thank you very much for your support. Thank you.
I now invite ICOMOS
آقای دکتر تبریک به شما. عکس بگیرید. دکتر نظری. آقای دکتر تبریک میگم. خیلی عالی بود. خیلی ممنون. شعرها رو دکترم این صبح گفت. خیلی عالی بود. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I now invite ICOMOS to present the nomination
Thank you.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I now invite ICOMOS to present the nomination of Nan Madol, Ceremonial Center of Eastern Micronesia, Federated States of Micronesia. But before I give the floor to the Secretariat, Mr. Balsamo, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to remind the committee that we received a factual error notification concerning this nomination, and it's to be found on page 83 of the English version of document INF 8B4 and on page 87 of the French version. And this factual error notification has also some impact on the proposed statement of outstanding universal value, which is already incorporated in the text that we have on the screen. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Representative of ICOMOS, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Nan Madol, centre cérémoniel de la Micronésie orientale, État fédéré de Micronésie. L'évaluation de l'ICOMOS en français se trouve à la page 154 du document INF 8B1 et à la page 103 dans la version anglaise. Nan Madol est une série de plus de 100 îlots artificiels au large de la côte de l'île de Pompéi qui portent les vestiges de palais, de temples, de sépultures, de domaines résidentiels en pierre représentant le centre cérémoniel de la dynastie Sodeleur. En termes de catégorie de biens culturels, il s'agit d'un site. Cette carte montre la localisation de l'île de Pompéi dans les États fédérés de Micronésie et de l'île de Cosray, où l'été parti prévoit d'ajouter le site d'El-Loup en tant qu'élément en série. Les limites de la zone proposée englobent l'ensemble du site d'îlots artificiels et la zone tampon comprend la totalité de l'île Temwen, une partie du platier récifal et de Nabkapu Bay. L'ensemble est entouré et protégé par une digue massive sur 3 côtés et s'appuie sur le platier récifal de l'île de Temwen au nord-ouest. Les constructions mégalithiques ont été érigées entre 1200, 1300 et 1500, 1600 après Jésus-Christ, pendant la période de la dynastie Sodeleur. On estime que la population de ces petites îles a extrait, transporté et posé 2000 tonnes de roches volcaniques par an pendant au moins 3 ou 4 siècles sans disposer de poulies, de niveaux, d'outils métalliques ou de roues. Les fondations des îlots ont été construites de pavés de corail et de blocs de basalte. Les murs, formés par des colonnes prismatiques de basalte, disposées en carreaux et boutisses, entourent des tombes, des domaines résidentiels et des sites destinés à des activités sacrées et cérémonielles. Voici un mur brise-lames à Pan Mwangasap, formé par des pierres qui sont alignées pour laisser passer les bateaux sans remplissage interne. L'îlot Nandowas est un des plus impressionnants du point de vue architectural. Il contient 3 tombes royales. Les principales menaces pesant sur les biens sont la croissance de la végétation, l'avancement des voies navigables et les ondes de tempête, qui conduisent à l'affondrement des ouvrages de pierre. Le déboisement est effectué par le personnel d'entretien autour de Nandowas, mais l'ICOMOS considère qu'il doit être étendu à d'autres zones du site. L'analyse comparative justifie d'envisager l'inscription de ce bien sur la liste du patrimoine mondial. Les conditions d'intégrité et d'authenticité sont vulnérables à cause de l'état de conservation de nombreuses structures. Les critères 3, 4 et 6 proposés par l'État partie ont été justifiés. L'ICOMOS a considéré que le critère 1 était justifié également. Les délimitations du bien proposé pour l'inscription et de la zone tampon sont appropriées. La protection est appropriée et sera renforcée par l'adoption du projet de loi pour créer un fonds pour la préservation du bien. L'état de conservation est préoccupant car plus de 80% des monuments connaissent des problèmes. Le système de gestion devrait être élargi. Une attention particulière doit être apportée à l'entretien et à la conservation des vestiges archéologiques, à la gestion du tourisme, à la préparation aux risques et à la formation dans le domaine de la gestion des ressources culturelles. L'ICOMOS recommande que les biens soient inscrits sur la liste du patrimoine mondial sur la base des critères 1, 3, 4 et 6 et soient simultanément inscrits sur la liste du patrimoine mondial en péril. L'ICOMOS recommande également que l'État partie invite une mission sur place dès que possible pour convenir d'un état de conservation souhaité en vue du retrait du bien de la liste du patrimoine mondial en péril. Il y a des recommandations complémentaires telles que l'adoption et la mise en œuvre de la loi qui créera un fonds pour la préservation et l'extension du système de gestion. L'ICOMOS encourage la coopération internationale à soutenir le projet de conservation et la soumission de l'ELU en tant qu'élément en série quand les conditions requises seront en place. Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you very much. The floor is open for the comments of the member countries. Representative of Philippines, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Philippines congratulates our brothers and sisters from the Federated States of Micronesia for nominating Nan Madol, an amazing example of Pacific Island culture that truly merits inscription on the World Heritage List as its first inscription. And with that, congratulations to Micronesia. The large-scale megalithic ceremonial center bears testimony to the Austronesian-speaking people's ingenuity and unique heritage, hitherto underrepresented on the World Heritage List, and to which the Philippines is intimately linked. In this regard, we are elated that ICOMOS included Criterion 1 in its assessment of OUV. We commend Micronesia for the adequate buffer zone and protection measures. We look keenly forward to the second part of this envisioned serial nomination from the State Party. But at the same time as we celebrate, we are deeply concerned about the vulnerabilities of the property and certain threats to its integrity and authenticity. In this light, and after our discussions over the past 2 days on items 7A and B, we laud the State Party for not contesting the proposed simultaneous inscription of Nan Madol on the list of World Heritage in danger, and viewing it instead as a tool to mobilize much needed international assistance and support for a desired state of conservation. For this, we as a committee, for our credibility, have to provide aid to Micronesia. My delegation is of the view that danger listing must result in increased assistance and capacity building, that it should act as a trigger and catalyst for prioritization of enhanced international assistance and solidarity. I believe this is the essence of our convention. We cannot keep increasing burdens on the State Party after inscription on the danger list. Hence, we should consider the following in the decision. 1, fielding a reactive monitoring mission to help Micronesia protect the property's OUV and implement the many recommendations we are putting to it as soon as possible. And 2, extend the deadline of the reporting expected from the State Party as 1 December 2016, as stipulated in paragraph 7, which is less than 5 months away. We need to be realistic and sensible. We propose February 2017 in accordance with the operational guidelines. We have submitted, Madam Chair, our amendments in this regard. And finally, let us rethink how we apply danger listing. Sites on the danger list from developing countries with insufficient resources and lack of capacity should be prioritized over new nominations from overrepresented regions. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Madam Ambassador. Now I give the floor to the representative of Jamaica. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jamaica congratulates the State Party of Micronesia for the submission of this outstanding cultural site, Nan Madol, based on criteria 1, 3, 4, and 6. This site, comprised of the remains of stone palaces, temples, mortuaries, and residential domains, represent the ceremonial center of a significant dynasty of this Pacific island. Jamaica supports the inscription of the property to the World Heritage List and acknowledges the recommendations by the advisory body that the site also be named to the World Heritage in Danger List. We therefore urge that the State Party takes the necessary steps to facilitate a mission to the property that will assist in formulating a desired state of conservation for the removal of the property from the list of World Heritage in Danger. Again, congratulations to the State Party for sharing with the world this outstanding site. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Representative of Vietnam.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Vietnam delegation totally agree with ICOMOS evaluation and support to inscribe Nan Madol on the World Heritage List under criteria 1, 3, 4, and 6. Vietnam delegation believes that the site meets 3 pillars of outstanding universal value, and the site bears exceptional testimony to the development of chiefly society in the Pacific Island. And the property is an outstanding example of a monument ceremonial center illustrating the period of development of chiefly society from around 1,000 years ago. Anyway, to protect the site sustainability, we would like to suggest State Party as soon as possible to develop and implement an adequate integrated management plan for the site in order to minimize impact that threatened by veteran growth, shifting up the waterway and storm surge, and also to improve conservation status of property monuments. And we also congratulate Micronesia for its first World Heritage Site. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative of Republic of Korea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Republic of Korea would like to congratulate the State Party of Micronesia on their first ever site to be inscribed on the World Heritage List. The prospect of having the site being inscribed immediately together on the danger list is of a nature to better protect the wide scope of values embedded in the heritage. We hope that in the near future that the DSOCR will be established to guide and prioritize the work of the State Party and also the decisions of the World Heritage Committee. Once again, we would like to happily support the inscription of Nan Madol, Ceremonial Center of Eastern Micronesia, on the World Heritage List, and we hope international support to protect the site. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative of Turkey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We extend our heartfelt congratulations to the State Party for its first nomination since the ratification of the Convention in 2002. We also commend their understanding of the Convention as reflected in the nomination file that proposed inscription in danger list is relied upon the agreement with the State Party. This will hopefully reflect the power and role of the Convention as a facilitator for better conservation of properties. Likewise, we also note that the evaluation process of this nomination is one of the remarkable examples of efforts by ICOMOS to reinforce dialogue with states parties, which we all appreciate. Lastly, Madam Chair, we are pleased that this inscription will also contribute to the geographical balance in the list to which we all aspire for. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Representative of Finland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nan Madol is truly an amazing site, and Finland sincerely wants to congratulate the State Party on their first site to be inscribed on the World Heritage List. We do have a question to ICOMOS though. One of the recommendations for the State Party is the removal of silt from the waterways. I would like to know more in detail how this removal should be implemented. As a maritime archaeologist and having spent 15 years of my life on the seafloor excavating wrecks and settlements, I have to say that the choice of wording sounds very alarming when it comes to a settlement built on the water, where cultural layers in some form can almost certainly be found. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative of Tanzania.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The United Republic of Tanzania joins other distinguished members of the committee to congratulate the State Party for a comprehensive work undertaken in preparation of this dossier, which has been rewarded today. The inscription of Nan Madol to the World Heritage List is an achievement and a reward to the expended effort and mobilized resources by the State Party of Micronesia to demonstrate their commitment to protect the site. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative of Peru.
Muy brevemente, señora presidenta, para respaldar plenamente la evaluación y el informe presentado por ICOMOS y por consiguiente para respaldar asimismo la inscripción del bien en la lista del patrimonio mundial. Al mismo tiempo, para expresar los deseos del Perú al Estado parte para que sus esfuerzos sean sistemáticos en colaboración con los órganos consultivos con la finalidad de otorgar al bien la sostenibilidad y un plan de gestión y de recuperación adecuada. Muchas gracias, señora presidenta.
Thank you very much. Representative of Portugal.
Thank you, Madam President. We wish to commend Micronesia for putting forward this nomination and its full engagement with conservation works that the property needs to undergo as a matter of urgency. Let me highlight the fact that it is the first inscription of a Micronesian site, which is an extra reason for our satisfaction. We understand the concerns expressed by the State Party during the collaborative work with ICOMOS regarding the recommendation to simultaneously inscribe the property on the World Heritage List and on the in danger list. The rationale being that the procedure would raise the international profile of this property and hence donors' support and subsequent funds for urgent conservation measures in the short and medium term. Nevertheless, as the State Party has agreed with a tentative timeline for a reactive monitoring mission towards the establishment of a desired state of conservation and program of corrective measures, we support the simultaneous inscription of this property also in the danger list. So, Madam President, we once again congratulate Micronesia for this very important milestone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see no more requests for the floor from the members of the committee. That's why I give the floor to the representative of Japan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Japan would like to join others in commending the efforts by the State Party made in close collaboration with ICOMOS to submit its first nomination of this extraordinary site, often called Venice of the Pacific. We are delighted to celebrate this historic moment today with our dear colleague from the Federated States of Micronesia here in Istanbul. Japan has been supporting the nomination of Nan Madol as part of Japan UNESCO project for the small island developing states through capacity building of local communities in heritage conservation and development of management plan. We wish the success of the State Party's continuing efforts to address the issues of management and conservation identified by the committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative of France.
Merci Madame la Présidente. La France soutient en tant qu'observateur l'inscription de ce bien sur la liste du patrimoine en péril. Alors, en réponse à la demande d'appui technique par les États fédérés de Micronésie en avril 2016 auprès des autorités françaises, une mission sur l'état de conservation est déjà programmée en septembre-octobre 2016. Ce sera le directeur de l'Institut d'archéologie de la Nouvelle-Calédonie et du Pacifique, M. Sand, qui la mènera. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much. I see no more requests from the members or the state parties. I give the floor to the representative of ICOMOS to reply the question raised.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Et il y a une question spécifique qui a été posée par le distingué délégué de la Finlande. Et je dois dire que malheureusement, je ne peux pas vous donner la réponse spécifique à cette question que vous avez posée parce que nous ne sommes pas spécialistes sur ces sujets. Mais l'avis de l'ICOMOS par rapport à cet aspect, c'était de nettoyer les canaux de façon qu'on puisse faire encore la navigation. Et c'est pour ça que l'ICOMOS a recommandé, avec l'inscription du site sur la liste du patrimoine en péril, de faire le plus vite que possible une mission sur le site pour établir un plan de gestion qui inclut dans d'autres aspects cet aspect de nettoyer les canaux et avec la participation bien sûr des professionnels spécialisés. Malheureusement, je ne peux pas vous donner une réponse plus technique à cet aspect parce que c'est trop spécifique du point de vue professionnel. Je vous prie de m'excuser. Merci Madame la Présidente.
Thank you very much. I see no more requests for the floor. May I ask our rapporteur to present the amendment on this draft decision?
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the proposed draft decision, there are a few amendments, and we also have an amendment from, submitted from the delegation of the Philippines. The first amendment takes place in the brief synthesis where we corrected the number of the islets on the basis of the factual error pointed out from the state party. And the other changes happen at the end of the decision. We just made a syntax change of correcting the word use to using. And here we have the amendment from the Philippines in paragraph 7, where we revised the date of the submission of the report to 1st February 2017 to be examined in 2017 41st session. And then Philippines proposes to add another paragraph, welcomes the invitation by the state party of an ICOMOS reactive monitoring mission in 2016 as soon as possible. I guess we could strike as soon as possible out, thank you, to agree on the desired state of conservation for the removal of the property from the list of World Heritage in danger, and strongly encourages international cooperation to support the conservation project. These are the only amendments that I have for this decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mrs. Zhou. Is there any objection? Representative of Finland, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's no objection, and I'm sorry to come in this late with it, but could I see paragraph 6 on the screen? Point 2. This is the issue that I addressed in my question. I would like to continue this sentence with the words, without jeopardizing possible cultural layers on the seafloor. Without jeopardizing possible cultural layers on the seafloor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Zhou.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's just been pointed out from the Secretariat that in view of the new paragraph that welcoming the ICOMOS reactive monitoring mission, we already have in paragraph 5 that the state party, that a recommendation is made to the state party to invite a mission to the property as soon as possible to agree on a desired state of conservation. So if we could just change, invite a reactive monitoring mission in existing para 5 and insert in, instead of as soon as possible, in 2016. And then this way we could remove the insertion of the new para 8 and just entirely, except for the encourages part, yes. And just go with the existing original draft of para 8. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Zhou. Is there any objection on the draft decision as amended? I see none. I declare decision 40Com 8B 22 adopted as amended. Let me congratulate Micronesia on behalf of the entire committee for their first inscription on the World Heritage List. Micronesia, you have the floor for a brief 2-minute statements.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the World Heritage Committee,
Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, I'm very excited. It is with great pleasure and honor that I am here today to witness the inscription of Nan Madol. Please allow me this opportunity on behalf of the people of the FSM to extend our sincerest thank you and gratitude to the World Heritage Committee, UNESCO, the UNESCO World Heritage Center, ICOMOS, for extending an invitation to us to participate in this session. In particular, I want to thank the government of Japan for their tremendous support. Certainly, I will not be here today if it were not for their generous funding. Lastly, but perhaps most importantly, I want to extend a special thank you to the Republic of Turkey and to all the people of this great country for your courteous welcome and your generous hospitality. And perhaps most importantly, to affirm our solidarity with you and with the people of France. Madam Chair, I am pleased and very grateful to have the people and culture of the FSM and this outstanding and unique site recognized by the international community. This is the first ever for my country. Indeed, I come from the Pacific region, an area that covers the surface, 1/3 of the surface of the earth, and yet we are very much underrepresented. I humbly urge you to prioritize this region and to provide assistance to all these small developing states in this region in the context of climate change. I assure you, as the discourse of climate change continues, we experience it daily in our lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. I want to thank congratulations from your friends in Israel. Thank you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I now invite ICOMOS to present the transnational nomination of Stećci, medieval tombstones, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Croatia, Montenegro, and Serbia. But before I give the floor to the Secretariat, Mr. Balsamo, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We received a factual error notification concerning this nomination, which is to be found on page 73 of document in fate before and on page 74 of the French version of the same document. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Representative of ICOMOS, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Stećci, tombe médiévale, Bosnie-Herzégovine, Croatie, Monténégro, Serbie. L'évaluation de l'ICOMOS en français se trouve à la page 179 du document 1.8b1 et à la page 126 de la version anglaise. Plus de 70 000 tombes médiévales d'un caractère originel appelées Stećci sont réparties dans 3 300 lieux d'inhumation dans le sud-est de l'Europe. Les États partis ont sélectionné 30 sites afin de représenter ces cimetières et les Stećci qui datent du IIe au VIe siècle. En termes de catégorie de biens culturels, il s'agit d'une proposition d'inscription en série de 30 sites. Les sites sélectionnés pour cette proposition incluent 22 sites en Bosnie-Herzégovine, 2 en Croatie, 3 en Monténégro et 3 en Serbie. À cause de la limitation de temps disponible, seulement quelques sites seront montrés dans cette présentation, en commençant avec une description des caractéristiques générales des Stećci. Par rapport aux formes, 5 types de Stećci ont été identifiés. Les dalles et les coffres sont les plus courants. D'autres formes incluent les toits en pignon, les piliers et les croix monumentales. Les motifs décoratifs sont très variés et incluent des arcs et flèches, des boucliers et des épées. Il y a notamment une très importante variété de croix. La figure humaine apparaît aussi parmi les motifs de la décoration. Et enfin, des animaux et d'autres motifs sont représentés tels que les bandes ou arcades. Il est aussi important de mentionner que des épitaphes apparaissent dans certains des Stećci qui offrent d'importantes informations historiques. Les motifs sont associés à l'imagerie de l'art médiéval, comme dans le cas de la lutte entre Saint-Georges et le dragon. En Bosnie-Herzégovine, quelques sites sont le site de Radimlja, qui fait partie de l'ère historique du village de Stolac, caractérisé par la présence de restes matériels appartenant à différentes couches historiques. Borac, dans le village de Burati, Rogatica, les découvertes les plus anciennes sont datées avant notre ère. Dugopolje, à Blidigne et à Blanica, la région était habitée dès le temps préhistorique. La nécropole démontre qu'elle a été habitée à l'époque médiévale. Lors de la période de l'industrialisation, la population a émigré et laissé ces terres inhabitées. Mramor, à Musici Olovo, où le système ornemental de nécropole fait référence à une école d'art qui avait ses propres principes et façons de dessiner les surfaces ornementées. Stare Kuće, la nécropole est située près du village de Tuzla. Toute l'aire porte sur une riche histoire et des restes matériels depuis le temps préhistorique jusqu'au présent. Podkuk, à Bitunia, Berkovici. Cette nécropole a plus de 200 tombes, dont quelques-unes sont décorées. La nécropole Baba est particulière pour ses fameux motifs décoratifs présents dans les cimetières de l'Herzégovine de l'Est. Notamment les hauts coffres étroits à la base et décorés avec des arcades. Des sites en Croatie incluent Velika et Malja Šrlivica, à Cista Velika, un complexe archéologique avec différentes phases de développement qui inclut des tumulus de l'âge de bronze et une phase médiévale des Stećci des XIVe et XVe siècles. Sainte Barbara à Dubravka, un site développé presque continuellement de l'ère préhistorique où l'aspect actuel vient de la fin du XIXe siècle. Au Monténégro, Grško-Globlje à Šabljak, situé à la montagne d'Urmitor, où l'on suppose que la noblesse féodale locale a été inhumée pendant le XIVe siècle et la première moitié du XVe. Bare Šugića à Šabljak, situé dans la même ère que le site précédent, on suppose que les deux cimetières ont eu un développement semblable. Des sites en Serbie incluent Mramorje à Peručak, Bajna Bašta. Il s'agit d'un cimetière médiéval situé à côté du fleuve Drina, où une seconde phase de développement correspond à un cimetière du XIXe siècle. Et Grško-Globlje à Hrta, Prijepolje, situé dans deux élévations séparées de 100 mètres. La section basse contient seulement des dalles, ce qui permet d'établir qu'elle appartient à la période préhistorique. L'ICOMOS considère que l'analyse comparative ne justifie pas encore la sélection des sites qui composent la série. Les composantes individuelles de la série remplissent les conditions d'intégrité, mais elle est vulnérable dans de nombreux cas en raison de leur état de conservation. L'ICOMOS considère l'approche en série appropriée, mais la sélection des 30 composantes doit être révisée et mieux justifiée en termes de signification des composantes et de leur capacité spécifique à contribuer à la valeur universelle exceptionnelle des Stećci. Les conditions d'authenticité ont été remplies. L'ICOMOS considère que les critères 2, 3 et 6 proposés par les États parties n'ont pas été justifiés à ce stade, même si le critère 3 pourrait être démontré après un approfondissement de l'analyse comparative et de la logique de sélection des éléments de la série. L'ICOMOS considère également que le critère 4 pourrait être considéré comme pertinent. Les délimitations des éléments composants et de leurs sons tampons doivent être réexaminées et révisées afin de délimiter et protéger de manière appropriée les sites proposés pour inscription. L'ICOMOS note que cela nécessiterait une nouvelle mission. La protection en place est appropriée, même si dans certains cas, elle pourrait être améliorée. Peu de composantes présentent un bon état de conservation, surtout en raison des processus naturels de détérioration qui sont insuffisamment contrôlés. Le système de gestion est approprié, mais n'est pas encore complètement opérationnel et requiert un renforcement, une coordination constante et implication systématique et à long terme des communautés locales. L'ICOMOS souhaite souligner que cette proposition en série transnationale démontre fortement que le patrimoine peut devenir un catalyseur pour la paix et reconnaît l'effort fait par les 4 États parties pour travailler ensemble pour la proposition de leur patrimoine commun à la liste du patrimoine mondial. En reconnaissant l'importante quantité d'informations fournies par les États parties en réponse au rapport intermédiaire du mois de janvier, l'ICOMOS recommande que cette proposition d'inscription soit différée afin de permettre aux États parties reformuler la justification de valeur universelle exceptionnelle de façon de justifier clairement les critères 3 et ou 4 en reliant les Stećci avec leur contexte social, culturel et historique. Démontrer comment la forme et la décoration des Stećci reflètent l'imagerie pré-chrétienne qui a apparemment persisté dans sa région de l'Europe plus fortement qu'ailleurs. Redévelopper l'analyse comparative de façon d'établir plus explicitement la valeur des Stećci au-delà le niveau régional et de mieux justifier la sélection des composants de la série selon leur signification. Fournir une claire et spécifique justification pour l'inclusion de chaque composante dans la série sur la base de la valeur universelle exceptionnelle proposée. Continuer de réviser les limites des sons proposés et tampons de façon d'assurer la protection de l'intégrité visuelle des cimetières et d'améliorer la capacité des sites d'être compris dans le cadre de leur contexte paysagiste, naturel et historique. Mettre en œuvre et renforcer le système de gestion à travers la coordination continue et la participation des communautés locales, en donnant une réponse à l'entretien des Stećci et assurant des ressources adéquates et la capacitation pour les gardiens locaux. L'ICOMOS considère que toute proposition révisée devrait faire l'objet d'une mission technique sur place. Il y a aussi des recommandations complémentaires, parmi lesquelles la possibilité de changer le nom du bien en série pour cimetière de tombes médiévales Stećci, afin de placer les pierres tombales dans leur important contexte. Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you very much. The floor is open for the comments of the members of the committee. Representative of Lebanon, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mrs. Chair. This nomination dossier concerns a series of 30 sites selected out of 3,300 sites in Bosnia-Herzegovina, Serbia, Montenegro, and Croatia. ICOMOS evaluation recognizes the potential OUV of the property and considers that the serial approach is justified, but raises several concerns which led to the deferral recommendation. We think that, as for the qanat dossier, the complexity of serial nomination rendered the evaluation very delicate in the 1.5-year time frame. Nevertheless, as for the criteria nomination, ICOMOS recognizes the appropriateness of criterion 3, but questions that of criteria 2 and 6, as proposed by State Party. We consider that the appropriateness of criterion 2 is indeed questionable. However, we cannot understand how criterion 6 can be denied for these properties that typically exhibit intangible associations and are linked with superstitions, folk traditions, and tales that survived over centuries and until the present days. Moreover, ICOMOS recognizes that the conditions of authenticity is satisfied, that legal protection and management systems are adequate, but recommend that the rationale for the selection of some components be more systematically addressed. The State Parties reacted to ICOMOS recommendations by reducing the number of sites proposed for inscription, adjusting the limits of core and buffer zones, and amending the name of the property. Madam Chair, although this nomination may require further improvement as to the possibility of including new elements in the series, the consistency of mapping and cataloging, integrating heritage risk assessment and disaster risk management, as well as other recommendations formulated in ICOMOS evaluation report, nevertheless, the committee should recognize the importance of this nomination, which represents the biggest common cultural project of the 4 countries since their independence. The symbolic dimension of this nomination is crucial, since it testifies of the capacity of shared heritage to overpass the borders between different communities and to challenge the confrontation between opposing identities. During the years of war and violence, the medieval tombstone graveyards were respected and protected by the different communities as the expression of a common cultural background. Unfortunately, this is not always the case in other parts of the world. It is thus the duty of our committee to recognize the importance of this powerful symbol. Lebanon has presented an amendment in this sense to the draft resolution.
Thank you very much. Representative of Portugal.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I fully share what our Lebanese colleague has just said. And let me say, as he did from the outset, that this nomination represents the biggest common cultural project of the 4 countries since their independence. It was prepared during the past 6 years by the most eminent experts in this field. What we have before us, Madam President, is a unique civilization that significantly influenced the cultural identity of Southeastern Europe. Furthermore, the geographical distribution of Stećci testifies unique cultural corridors, holders of different traditional and cultural practices, the importance of which goes far beyond the territory of the southeast of Europe. Let me also underline that the experts from the 4 countries have already implemented an important part of ICOMOS report suggestions, including the implementation of the management plan for the protected properties. But allow me, Madam President, to address another dimension of this issue. This nomination symbolizes the effort and willingness of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Croatia, Montenegro, and Serbia to overcome their turbulent past and move forward to promote peace and stability through culture and by preserving and upholding their common historical past. It is also through this very important perspective that this nomination should be approached and assessed. We praise those 4 countries for their very close collaboration over the years to prepare this challenging and highly symbolic nomination. This joint effort towards a common aim is everything UNESCO stands for and is at the core of our convention. This shared commitment is even more significant when we bear in mind the traumatic and violent disintegration of former Yugoslavia and all the pain it caused to the Balkan peoples. Madam President, we may perhaps agree that the comparative analysis could have been improved further and that conservation issues should be addressed with the implementation of active conservation programs. But while identifying these issues in the nomination files, a powerful message of peace surfaces from the dossiers, a commitment that seems strong enough to overcome what challenges still remain in this nomination, as ICOMOS rightly pointed out in its report. So, Madam President, we firmly believe that the inscription of this property today will encourage even further the four countries in their will to further strengthen their cooperation and to implement the recommendations. So, we deem that this property should be inscribed today, and we look forward to this. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. Representative of Turkey, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Powerful message of peace surfaces from the dossiers of the four countries in Southeastern Europe. These were the lines highlighted by distinguished Ambassador of Portugal towards the end of his statement. Turkey adds its voice to the excellent technical analysis of the Stećci file by the distinguished national expert of Lebanon and Ambassador of Portugal. The experts from Bosnia and Herzegovina, Croatia, Montenegro, and Serbia, after their turbulent past and what has been the traumatic experience of just 21 years ago, have united in working on the nomination file, which fully demonstrates and labels 28 medieval necropolises with tombstones in the shape of Stećci, out of 3,300 registered and technically processed sites on the entire territory they cover. This selection is a result of meticulous consideration and process of all factors required for authenticity and integrity, with the purpose to fulfill the strict criteria for inscription on the World Heritage List. All four countries have demonstrated their commitment to this joint nomination by establishing continuous and consistent cooperation since 2009. A joint expert work took place, a joint letter of intent was signed, coordination mechanisms for work on the nomination and management plan were created, and the nomination dossier and management plan were adopted. In this way, the countries were obliged to further actively cooperate on the protection and sustainable management of the necropolises for the sake of present and future generations. Stećci is a medieval tombstone based on which we can examine the deepest roots and origins of European people in the Central Balkans, but which also testifies about the spiritual life of our ancestors, their ancestors. Stećci are the symbols of burial places for all people. They are respected by all communities, all cultures, regardless of the time they belong to. These carved stone monoliths extracted from the quarries with hard labor to mark the graves of the deceased, Stećci represent a family tree marking everyday joys and sorrows, a historical record and a folk tale, which connect Southeastern European peoples to the distant past. Madam Chair, Turkish delegation believes and agrees with ICOMOS that the file qualifies to be inscribed under criteria 3, but having carefully analyzed the dossiers, we also sympathize with the analysis by the distinguished national expert of Lebanon that criteria 6 vis-à-vis the universal value and the broad cultural, historical, natural, and intangible context of the values. Turkey therefore proposes the inscription of this property, and we strongly support the amendments proposed by Lebanon. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. I have 16 more speakers on my list, so I will adjourn the meeting for this morning, and please keep your flags up. Before adjourning the meeting, the Secretariat will have some announcements.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to remind about the side events, this lunchtime that you'll see shortly on the screen, There is a periodic reporting meeting, a follow-up by the region of Europe and North America from 1 o'clock in room Yildiz 1. And there is also an opening of an exhibition in the Bayezid Hall, Bucharest Heritage. There are 2 events by IUCN in the Maca room, and this is all what we have about side events. Let me only remind to all of you that the first meeting of the operational guidelines group will take place as from 2 o'clock in the Bureau meeting room. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned. We'll resume at 3 o'clock in this afternoon.